You are listening to Dark Psychology 101. Covert emotional manipulation techniques, dark persuasion, undetected mind control, and more. Written by Fred Parsons. Published by Audiobook Nexus.
Introduction. Have you ever done something and later wondered why you let that person persuade you? Perhaps you've never considered why you prefer one politician over another. Or have you heard of cults and wondered how those people agreed to be a part of one? Or maybe you're in a relationship and you're wondering why you let your partner do whatever he or she wants and then feel used and humiliated? This book is for you if you have such questions and many more. The book begins by introducing you to dark psychology and its components. This is to help you know how in our daily lives we interact with various people who use unethical ways in their interests. You've probably been a victim of a con man and don't understand how they were able to persuade you. There are numerous tactics used to influence human behavior. Psychopaths, narcissists, and other people use these tactics to manipulate others into doing what they want. These are the tactics used to brainwash and control individuals' minds. The book discusses these various tactics so that you can identify when someone wants to use manipulative tactics against you. Knowing this will help you avoid being manipulated and inadvertently using dark psychology to influence others. The book will also help you understand how to positively influence human behavior and develop a likable personality. Reading this book is the first step toward breaking free from those who use dark psychology to manipulate you. Break a vow and take control of your thought and mind and do what good for you. Chapter 1. A look at dark psychology. What exactly is dark psychology? Dark psychology is the study of a condition in human beings that relates to the psychological nature of individuals, to prey on others driven by deviant or criminal purposes that have no reason and assumptions of instincts and theories of social. Every human being is capable of persecuting others or other living things. Some people control these types of urges while others act on them. Dark psychology is the study that seeks to understand these feelings, thoughts, suggestive processing, and perceptions that lead to a human have these predatory behavior. It is about comprehending why individuals would have such dark thoughts and feelings that are out of the norm of human behavior. Dark psychology takes the assumption that abusive, deviant, and criminal behaviors are intentional, and they are oriented towards a specific goal about 99% of the time. Dark psychology encompasses everything that makes people who they are about their dark side. Dark psychology encompasses everything that makes people who they are about their dark side. From the moment a person is born, they have a side that is often dark and hidden, which some people refer to as the evil or criminal side. According to the study of dark psychology, some people commit these acts not for retribution, sex, money, power, or any other known reason. They have no reason or purpose for committing heinous acts. These people violate and harm others simply because they can. Every human being has the potential to harm another for no reason or without an explanation. This dark side of a human being is difficult to explain, comprehend, or define. The 4 dark psychology traits. Psychologists have identified 4 major types of socially offensive and self-centered people that we all encounter in our day-to-day lives. These people are classified as Machiavellians, narcissists, psychopaths, and sadists. Psychopaths and sadists. It is very easy to confuse these types in people because they often share certain tendencies like lack of empathy with others. These individuals are all sociable, extroverts, and always make excellent initial impressions before turning around and making lives miserable for those they exploit. However, there are distinct differences between these personalities. Here, we discuss each personality trait, its characteristics and effects, as well as treatment options. Narcissism. People with extreme narcissistic characteristics are described as having a narcissistic personality disorder. Personal development, DEV, NPD. This disorder is a mental condition in which those who have it exhibit an inflated sense of self-importance, necessitating excessive attention and being admired. They also have no empathy for others and are unable to have or maintain healthy relationships. They carry themselves with extreme self-confidence, but they are usually hiding a vulnerable side that can be broken with the most minor criticism. A person with a narcissistic personality disorder has and causes many problems in various areas of their life, such as their financial affairs, work, relationships, and work. People with this personality disorder are generally unhappy and disappointed when they do not receive the attention they believe they deserve. They frequently find their relationships unfulfilling, and worse, people do not enjoy being around them. There are various signs that give away a person with this trait. Narcissistic personality disorder symptoms. The severity of a person with a narcissistic personality disorder varies from one person to the next. However, some of the most common characteristics of narcissists are, when compared to other people, they feel extremely important. They believe they are entitled and that the world revolves around them. They always want attention and excessive admiration. They expect those around them to recognize them as superior, even if they have no accomplishments to show for it. They enjoy exaggerating any accomplishments or talents they possess. They are always preoccupied with fantasies about power, beauty, success, professed partner, or excellence. They believe they are more superior and can only be associated with people of the same caliber. They take over conversations and make them about themselves as they look down on those that they feel are inferior to them. They always expect to be treated specially, and for people to comply with their expectations without asking any questions. To get what do they want? Though you and take advantage of other people. They refuse and are unwilling to understand or appreciate the feelings of others. They believe that other people are envious of them, but they are the ones who are envious of them. Their behavior is full of arrogance and haughtiness, and they come across as boastful, conceited, and presumptuous. People who are narcissistic do not deal well with criticism because they want to have the best of everything, such as the best office or car part from these personality traits. If they believe they are being criticized, they will become enraged and impatient because they believe they are not receiving the special treatment they require. They have several interpersonal issues and are easily offended. They respond to criticism with contempt and denigrate the person they believe is criticizing them to feel more superior. They have when confronted with difficult situations. They find it difficult to adapt to change and face challenges. When they believe they have fallen short of perfection, they become moody and depressed. They conceal their feelings of shame, humiliation, vulnerability, and insecurity. Seeking assist. Narcissistic people who suffer from narcissistic personality disorder frequently believe that everything is wrong with them. If they seek treatment, it is only because they are depressed or struggling with another condition such as substance abuse. However, so their self-esteem will be insulted, they are likely to stay away and refuse treatment. What causes narcissism? There is no single known cause of narcissistic personality disorder. Like other mental or personality disorders, the causes are complex, but they may be associated with. Neurobiology is the study of the relationship between a person's brain, thought patterns, and behavior. A person's thought process or pattern directly contributes to how they act outwardly. An environment. This is primarily derived from the relationship between a child and her parent. Narcissistic traits can develop as a result of excessive adoration or criticism from a parent. A child can grow up with a bloated ego or with excessive feelings of self-loathe, among other insecurities. The genetics are inborn traits that person inherits from their lineage. Narcissism's complications. People with narcissistic traits may face difficulties in their lives. Some of these challenges may include having troubles associating with coworkers and being a part of a team. If you are a student who is struggling with schoolwork, other students and teachers can help you. Having difficulty forming and maintaining healthy relationships. They are more likely to suffer from anxiety disorders and depression. They are more likely to suffer from physical health problems such as heart disease as a result of depression, stress, or other challenges. They are likely to abuse drugs and alcohol to escape from their personal feelings of inadequacy and low self-esteem. Suicidal behavior or thoughts are possible. Prevention. Because there is no single known cause of narcissistic behavior, there is no single known way to prevent it. However, psychologists advise that it is possible to prevent narcissistic personality disorder by doing the following. If you discover or suspect that you suffer from childhood mental health issues, you should seek treatment as soon as possible. If you are a parent or aspiring parent, join parenting classes and ask for guidance from social workers or therapists on areas you feel challenged. Learn to communicate better and deal with conflicts with your Machiavellianism. Machiavellianism is a personality trait in psychology that shows a person to be solely focused on their personal interests. To achieve their goals, these individuals will deceive, manipulate, and exploit their victims without care. The term Machiavellianism is derived from Niccolo Machiavelli, a well-known Renaissance philosopher. He wrote a book in which he expressed his views on how strong rulers should treat their subjects. He believed that strong rulers were cruel to their subjects, and that to gain glory and survive, you should do anything, brutal or immoral. Machiavellianism is found to be more prevalent in men than in women in dark psychology. However, it can occur in anyone, including children. As discussed below, there are various signs that will characterize an individual with Machiavellianism traits. Signs of Machiavellianism. Individuals with Machiavellianism trait have the following traits. They are selfish with a focus on individual interests and abilities. They exalt power and money over relationships. They exhibit a lot of confidence and charm in social circles. In their desire to get ahead, though will exploit and manipulate others. They have no problem lying and deceiving others if necessary. They frequently flatter others in an attempt to manipulate them. They have no guiding principles or life values. They are difficult to understand or know, and they are frequently incorrect. They do not believe in morality and goodness. They are cynical of anything that is perceived to be good or morally correct. They don't mind causing harm to others as long as they get what they want. They are unable to empathize with others and avoid becoming emotionally attached to anyone or any form of commitment. They are very calculating. They are not in a hurry to get what they want, and their patience frequently pay off. They conceal their true intentions in everything they do. They would rather have casual sex encounters than being in a relationship. They are exceptional at reading other people and situations. They do not comprehend and are unaware of the consequences of their actions. They have a difficult time understanding their emotions. Machiavellianism scale. The Machiavellianism scale measures whether a person is a high match or a low match. It is a score out of 100 made up of several questions that are used to determine an individual's level of Machiavellianism. Individuals with max scores above 60 are referred to as high Machs, while those with Mach scores below 60 are referred to as low Max. High Max are preoccupied with their well-being. They believe that to progress, one must be decisive. They do not believe in the goodness of people, and being reliant on others is an act of naivety. They despise love and connection over power and do not believe in humankind's good nature. Low Max are the exact opposites of high Max. They are empathic, trusting, and honest, and believe in the goodness of humanity. They believe that with good morals, anyone can do well. Low marks that score too low indicates that the people are extremely submissive and agreeable. Machiavellianism personality treatment. People with these traits will avoid seeking therapy or desiring change. They can only attend therapy if forced to, not of their own free will. Most therapists will employ cognitive behavioral therapy to try and transform their thoughts and behaviors. Because these people do not trust easily, the therapist must begin by establishing a trust relationship. Psychopath is a mental disorder where an individual manifests antisocial and amoral behavior, lacks the ability to love and start meaningful. Individuals with psychopathology are extremely egocentric and fail to learn from conditions or experiences associated with this condition. One of the most difficult disorders to identify is psychopathy. Psychopath appears normal, is charming, but he lacks empathy underneath. He is manipulative and volatile, but he is not a criminal. However, various signs exist to indicate that a person is psychopathic, though include uncaring. Psychopaths are callous and lack empathy. They are cold and show no regard for the feelings of others. These psychopaths have weak connections with the brain's emotional components. This lack of connection explains why psychopaths show no emotional connections to people. They are also unable to detect fear on the faces of others. Psychopaths are easily disgusted by anything. When shown images of mutilated bodies, they show no emotion and are not moved by a foul smell. Shallow emotion. Psychopaths have no emotions to a certain degree, more so than social emotions of guilt, shame, or embarrassment. Psychopaths are described as emotionally shallow because they show no emotions or fear. Normal people show fear when confronted with a potentially painful situation, and their bodies may react by sweating or changing their skin. Psychopaths, on the other hand, show no response or register of emotions when confronted with similar situations. Irresponsibility. Psychopaths are untrustworthy and irresponsible. They do not accept responsibility for anything. Instead, they assign blame to others for things that are their fault. They only admit responsibility when pushed to a corner, but even then, they have no remorse or shame and show no willingness to change their behavior. Insincere speech. Pathological liars are described as psychopaths. Their charm is superficial, but they lack truthfulness and sincerity. They distort the truth to gain selfish gains. They deceive others for gain or amusement. Overconfidence. Psychopaths have an inflated sense of self-worth. They believe they can get away with anything and that they are the best at whatever they want to do. Narrow attention. Normal people are able to adjust as the process continues, but psychopaths lack this ability. They Psychopaths are extremely selfish. They have an inflated ego and want everything to revolve around them. They enjoy living off of others and will avoid making any contributions to anything that may benefit others. They are poor planners. Psychopaths are incapable of planning for the future. They are unable to set realistic long-term goals and live their lives in a carefree manner. Violence. Psychopaths have a low tolerance for frustration and can easily become aggressive and violent. They are easily irritated and aggressive, and they are involved in physical assaults and fights. Treatment. People who exhibit psychopathic behavior do not believe they have anything wrong with them. They avoid treatment in all forms and will only respond to therapy if forced to. The majority of therapists will use cognitive behavior therapy in an attempt to show them how their thoughts affect their behavior and to try to change them. Sadism. The dictionary definition of sadism is the receiving or giving of pleasure from acts that inflict humiliation or pain on others. A sadistic personality disorder is said to a person that derives pleasure from other people's suffering. Many people have a mundane and pervasive kind of sadism that they have hidden, yet it is part of their personality too. Some people experience sadistic behaviors daily, but are unaware of them. Sadists have different traits. These are some examples. They find pleasure in seeing people get hurt. They also enjoy inflicting pain on others, whether it is sexually, emotionally, or physically. And they become enthralled by the prospect of injuring others. They hate people or other creatures for pleasure, such as torturing a dog by causing it pain. Sadists frequently have fantasies in which they enjoy hurting others. They harm people or other creatures simply because they can do so. They believe that to keep people in line, they must intentionally humiliate them. When they are angry, their first instinct is to hurt others. Sadism can also be manifested in sex. It is known as psychosexual disorder. An individual suffering from this disorder derives gratification from inflicting pain on their partner during sex. Other people find sexual gratification when they are inflicted with pain. Most sadists, on the other hand, prefer a sexual partner who is not masochistic so that they can enjoy inflicting pain on them or the victim's unwillingness to engage in sadistic sexual pleasure. During sex, there are various levels of violence. Some are mild, while others are so severe that they cause harm. The sadist may find satisfaction not in the actual pain inflicted on their victim, but rather in the victim's mental torture. Sadism has also been linked to violent crimes such as murder and rape. Individuals who are purposefully cruel to others for pleasure are also referred to as sadistic. They derive pleasure from domineering and humiliating their victims, even in social settings. Others may use sarcasm to publicly humiliate their victims and feel good about it. Other shady psychology traits. Apart from the four main traits of dark psychology, there are other traits in dark psychology that are closely related to the main four. These are some examples. The egos is defined as the obsession with one's accomplishments at the expense of others. Even if another person has similar or greater accomplishments, they downplay them and see themselves as the best in the field. They blow their trumpet and disregard the accomplishments of others. The moral disengagement. People who display dark psychology personalities have the ability to have unethical behaviors and don't feel bad about it. They believe they have the right to insult others and that there are no consequences for their actions. A psychological entitlement. The person with these traits believes that they are more superior in thought, deeds, and personality than others. Individuals with dark psychology traits are spiteful and believe in seeking revenge. They do not care who gets hurt in the process, even if it is themselves, as long as they retaliate. Who employs dark psychology? Dark psychology refers to the art and science of mind control and manipulation. Individuals use certain tactics of persuasion, motivation, coercion, or manipulation to achieve their goals at the expense of others in dark psychology. No one wants to be a victim of manipulation, but we all experience it regularly. A person can be a victim of a person having a personality disorder or other manipulations that are experienced every day. Some of these today manipulation tactics are found in sales techniques, internet ads, commercials, or even in how our supervisors behave in our workplaces. Teenagers use manipulative tactics also to try and get what they want. It may come as a surprise to learn that those who use dark persuasion or manipulation against you are frequently loved ones. Some of the tactics they will employ are as follows: flooding you with love and compliments as a way to butter you up before they make a request. To manipulate you, they employ lies, exaggerations, untruths, and partial truths. They withhold affection and attention to compel you to do what they want. Or withdrawal. They may decide to avoid you or give you silent treatment to force you to do what they want. They limit your options. They give you certain choices in an effort to drive you away from a choice you would have made. Those we love frequently employ regression psychology. They say one thing while meaning another to make you do what they want rather than what you want. Loved ones also use semantic manipulation. They use words that have mutual definitions for both of you, but the manipulator later admits that they had a different meaning for the word. Many people use dark psychology as well as manipulation tactics to get what they want. Some of these people are narcissists. Narcissistic people who have narcissistic personality disorders have a bloated ego and an inflated sense of importance. They need others to validate that they are more superior. They want to be worshipped, adored, and held in high regard. To get what they want, they frequently use dark psychology task. Some of the tactics they employ include unethical persuasion as well as manipulation. Individuals with sociopathic disorders are intelligent, charming, and in some cases impulsive. They don't have the ability to have an emotional connection with others. They employ dark psychology tactics to cultivate a superior relationship while taking advantage of others. Attorneys. Most attorneys are driven by winning a case. As a result, they employ dubious persuasion techniques to influence the outcome. Politicians. To persuade people to trust them and vote for them, politicians are known to employ dark psychology tactics of persuasion. Salespeople. The majority of salespeople work on targets. They are intent on completing the transaction. A sale that the UJARC tackle as a method of motivating and persuading a person to buy what they are selling. Leaders. To get their subordinates to perform better or put more effort into their work, some leaders resort to dark tactics as a motivation or persuasion tool. Public speakers. Speakers understand the importance of elevating the emotional state of their audience. They know that by doing so, they will be able to sell more products or services, so they employ devious tactics to persuade their audience. People who are selfish. Anyone can be selfish. If you have an agenda to benefit others' expense, you are selfish. To achieve one's agenda, an individual may result in dark tactics to persuade others to meet their selfish needs. As an individual, it is critical to distinguish between dark tactics of motivation and persuasion and ethical tactics. You must ask yourself what the point of your persuasion is. Is it only for your benefit or for the benefit of others? If the intention is solely for your benefit, it can easily fall prey to dark psychology tactics. You should always strive for a mutually beneficial outcome and believe that is what you are doing. To determine whether your tactics are falling more on the dark side of the ethical side, ask yourself the following questions. What is your intention with the interaction and who stands to benefit from it? Do you feel confident in your approach to the interaction? Are you being completely honest and open in your actions? Will the tactics employed result in a trusting relationship with the other person? To be successful in your relationships, work, parenting, or leadership, you must assess yourself and determine whether your motivation and persuade tactics are ethical or selfish. Common dark psychology techniques. There are common techniques that people who practice dark psychology use to get what they want. They include persuasion, manipulation, empathy, and emotional manipulation techniques. Here, we will go over each of these tactics in detail, as well as how individuals can use them to their advantage. Persuasion individuals or entities use a variety of techniques to persuade people to act subconsciously and produce excellent results. Among these techniques are putting one's foot in the door. This means that before a person asks for a buy doing so, you get your victim committed to helping you, and once you're sure of their commitment, you move on to ask for a more request, knowing they can't refuse. As an example, if you meet someone who asks you for directions, you comply. As you're giving them directions, they say they're worried they'll get lost and would appreciate it if you could walk them there. If this occurs, you are more likely to agree to it than if they had asked you to walk with them in the first place. You miss a class and request a classmate for the missed class notes. Following that, you ask the same classmate to give you notes for the entire semester because you now have missed a few more classes. You began by asking for a small favor, then progressed to a more small favor. If you had started with a larger request, chances are you would not have gotten all of the notes. The face of the door. This is the inverse of the foot in the door tactic. You start by asking for a huge favor that you know the person will not agree to, and then you move on to a smaller request, which is what you wanted in the first place. As an example, you might ask a classmate to tutor you for an exam. You explain that you haven't studied at all and that you need their assistance. The classmate refuses to claim have no time and even claims they've never seen you attend the class. You may follow this request by asking to borrow their notes on the subject, and because the request seems smaller, they'll agree. Your goal was to get the notes, and you knew you had to be manipulative to get them. You ask a friend to lend you $1,000, and your friend says no. You follow up with a request of $100, which your friend considers a fairer request and gives you the money. Anchoring this is a cognitive bias that is prevalent in decision-making. For example, how would you know which product is superior to the other? You're probably going to compare it to other products that are similar to it. When pricing, you can use this technique. If used correctly, anchoring is a potent persuasion technique. As an example, you go to a store and see the type of shoe you need and it costs $100. You haggle with the salesgirl until the shoe is reduced to $80. You buy the shoe satisfied that you got the best deal. However, the real value of the shoe was $60, but you purchased it at a higher price. The $100 acts as the anchoring price to make you feel like you got a good deal when, in fact, you did not. Yeah, and in some cases, you go through a job interview and are offered the job. You've been given a salary offer of $3,000. You negotiate it down to $3,500. You think you've gotten a great offer, but in essence, the company had $4,500 in their budget if you had asked. Continuity and commitment. Most people are consistent in their actions and beliefs. If you can persuade someone to commit to something small, you can probably persuade them to commit to something bigger. For instance, you've always used a particular part. The salesperson can ask you when the last time you used a different brand. They use that line to persuade you to buy a different product that they are pursuing. Perhaps you work for a certain non-governmental organization and need funds. Before you ask someone to donate, you should first ask them if they support the particular cause. They will affirmatively answer chances. When you ask and they confirm, it is unlikely that they will refuse to donate if called upon to do so. Social evidence. One of the most widely used persuasion techniques is social proof. This is based on the strength of groupthink. When one individual mentions an idea, everyone follow, whether you agree or not. When most people make decisions, they look at what their friends would do and do the same. For example, if you have a tips jar in your workplace, when it's empty, someone will rarely put a tip. Fill it up to a certain level. Customers are more likely to tip if they believe others have tipped as well. If you've posted something on social media, if a lot of people like it, it's likely that a lot more will as well. Authority people look to authority to be persuaded. If you present yourself as a source of authority, you will be able to persuade more people. As an example, if you are pushing a certain brand of toothpaste and say that 9-10 dentists believe the particular brand is the best, your audience is likely to believe it and buy the brand. If you are a startup company, but on your landing page, you mention have worked with some big brands and they probably give testimonials about your work, automatically your audience will be persuaded that you are the best in your field. Scarcity. The scarcity is one of the most commonly used persuasion techniques. People appear to have a high demand for items that are said to be in short supply. This technique is used to persuade the audience that a certain product is only available for a certain period, or that its supply is limited. As an example, some hotels advertise their available rooms as only 2 or 3 are left, so you must act quickly if you require accommodation. A door-to-door salesman can tell his customers that he only visits the area once a month and that there are no guarantees that they will be selling the same product the next time they come by. Reciprocation. People feel obligated to repay favors. This is regardless of whether the person liked what you gave them or not. Raise your chances of receiving something you want if you have a person indebted to you. As an example, for example, if you are raising funds for an orphanage, you now get the children to make bracelets to offer as presents to potential donors. When you go to make your presentation or ask people for donations, you can begin by giving these bracelets to the people. They will, in turn, feel obligated to donate to the cause. Every day, people use various persuasion techniques to get things done. However, it is critical to consider whether your techniques are ethical or on the dark psychology side. Manipulation. Every person uses manipulation at least one time in their life. You may tell a little white lie to get out of a situation, or you may use flattery to gain favors. However, manipulation is a way of life for predators. They use manipulation to overpower their victims. Predators use manipulation to control their victims, and they are careful about who they target with their manipulations. Victims of manipulations are likely naive, have low self-esteem, like to please, lack self-confidence, or are naive. Some of the techniques used by manipulators to control their victims are as follows. Lying. The predator lies about everything. They do this to perplex their victims. Psychopaths use lying as one of their techniques to manipulate their victims, and they have no remorse about it. Half-truths. Predators keep a part of the story to themselves to disadvantage their victims. They only tell their victims what they want them to know and withhold vital information from themselves. Swings in mood. Most people have no idea what mood their partner will be in. They live their lives based on the feelings or moods of their partners. Predators enjoy keeping their victims off balance because they decide whether or not they will be happy. This easily keeps their victims under their control. Love bombing and devaluation. This is a manipulation tactic. You'd be narcissists. They trick you into thinking you're in the best relationship ever. When you least expect it, they abandon you without a trace. Punishment. This varieties. It now includes yelling, nagging, silent treatment, mental abuse, or physical violence. Denial. The easiest way a predator can manipulate an individual. I've been denying the down what they were accused of. They deny doing anything and make their victims believe they are insane. The truth is being twisted. This is about twisting the facts to suit the producer. In most cases, spinning the truth is used to disguise bad behavior. such as being a sociopath. A. Minimizing. In this case, the predator will play down what they did as if it is not important or damaging to their victim and apportion the blame back to the victim and claim you are overreacting. The victim of playing. Manipulators play the role of victims to gain sympathy from those around them. Human beings by nature enjoy assisting those in need. Because they understand this fact, predators manipulate others. Targets the victim predators like to accuse their victims of wrongdoing, causing their victims to be defensive. When they do this, they question their manipulations and shift the focus to the victim rather than the manipulator. Positive reinforcement predators will manipulate their victims by buying pricey gifts, heaping them with praise, issuing them with menu, and always apologizing for their behavior. In some cases, they will even pay their victims a lot of attention to get what they want. Pet predators want their victims to keep wondering where they stand with them. Their goal is to confuse their victims so that they can control them. A diversion. Two topics are changed by predators. They shift the conversation away from themselves and onto different topics in an attempt to keep their victims from asking any questions. E. Sarcasm. The predator uses sarcastic remarks regarding their victim in the presence of others. Their goal is to lower the victim's self-esteem while displaying their power. Trip of guilt. Predators enjoy guilt, tripping their victims by accusing them of not caring for them or of being responsible for making the predator's life difficult. They want to keep their victims anxious and perplexed at all times. Flattery predators understand that, to gain the trust of their victim, they will use praise, charm, or flattery. They are well aware that their victim will be pleased to hear this and will lower their guard. This makes it easier for them to control them. They play the naive card. Manipulators are often shocked and perplexed when they are accused of wrongdoing. They can convict the victim by surprising them, which causes them to question their judgment. Aggression. 2. To make their victim submissive. Predators use aggression and anger. They also use anger to halt any further discussion on a topic because the victim will be scared to ask and focus on controlling the predator's anger rather than the topic. Isolation. Predators understand the importance of isolating their victims. They understand that when a person is isolated from their family or loved ones, it is easier to manipulate them. They will do anything to keep their victims away from people who can tell them the truth about the situation. Prefers to love and empathize. Psychopaths don't know how to love anyone but themselves. They have no empathy because they are unable to relate to others on an emotional level. They do, however, know how to pretend to love and empathize to control their victims. It is critical to understand and be aware of the techniques used by manipulators to avoid becoming a victim of the same. A good emotion is empathy. When you say someone is empathetic, it means they can relate to the feelings and emotions of another person. Empathy, the emotion that allows people to sonest at a deeper emotional level. Unfortunately, empathy can be used to manipulate others in dark psychology. There are a few wows redditor emrathu to their advantage. Some of these wows are use of empathy to gain an advantage over others. It is argued that psychopaths are incapable of being empathetic. That is not always the case. A person can have cognitive empathy, which is the ability to understand what others are feeling, and emotional empathy, which is when a person feels what the other. The use of cognitive empathy has been mastered by psychopaths. This gives them an advantage over a victim because they can understand what the person is thinking and going through, but don't care. The victim manipulates their feelings with emotional connection, and that is when a psychopath will manipulate them to her advantage. The ability to turn on and off emotions at will. Psychopaths can show empathy when they want it and turn it off when they don't. This is done to keep their victim perplexed and guessing as to what is going on. Because of their ability to understand different feelings, you will start thinking that they are empathetic when in essence, they are manipulating you to think that. Psychopaths can charm at will and tend to empathize to manipulate their victims. Using fear to manipulate. According to research, psychopaths do not experience fear in the same way that normal people do. For example, if you are startled by a loud noise that you did not expect, a normal person may jump and possibly scream. Psychopaths, on the other hand, will hardly be startled or break a sweat. This, where the you cognitive empathy. Psychopaths are extremely dangerous due to their ability to use cognitive empathy against their victims. When they see what scares them, they will manipulate the situation and exaggerate the facts to scare their victims into action. They use fear to manipulate their victims into doing what they want them to do while they have no fear of themselves. Use of deception. Psychopaths are interested in what benefits them and achieving their goals. To them, deception means an end. They frequently present reality in a distorted view by exploiting a story with lies and half-truths, making it difficult to distinguish between the truth and the fiction. They expertly manipulate their victims into doing their bidding through deception. They choose to be arrogant. Psychopaths do what they do with no feelings of shame or guilt. They are aware of what they are doing and how they are making other people feel, but they simply do not care. This allows them to do whatever they want, as long as they meet their goals. When a person can use cognitive empathy, it is difficult to know what they are pretend to empathize. Manipulators use cognitive empathy to manipulate their victims into doing whatever they want as long as their selfish needs are met. Tactics for emotional manipulation. When an individual tries to gain power and control by using sneaky and deceptive tricks to transform the thoughts, perceptions, or behavior of their victim, this is referred to as emotional manipulation. Emotional manipulation occurs in such subtle ways that it is nearly impossible to detect when it occurs. In relationships, manipulative partners disguise their need for control with methods that appear to be genuine love. Individuals use psychological manipulation to exercise influence on a person through mental distortion or exploiting their emotions. The goal of these types of manipulations is to gain control and power over the victim and use it to their advantage. There is both healthy social influence and dark manipulation. Most relationships have a healthy social influence where a give and take kind of understanding. However, in dark manipulation, one person uses another for their benefit. The manipulator deliberately identifies his victim's weaknesses and uses the knowledge to create a power imbalance. Once the manipulator has control of the victim, they are free to use them for their gain. Dark psychology manipulators employ a variety of tricks. It is critical to identify them so that you do not become manipulated. Some of these tricks are as follows. Home court advantage. When meeting with them, they will always insist on meeting with you in areas where you have the full advantage and can easily dominate and control you. They will insist on meeting you in their home, car, or office as long as it is a Roz where they feel familiar or in control. Allow you to speak first. Manipulators always let their victims speak first to try and identify their weaknesses. For example, a salesperson will probe and ask you general questions to try and establish your thoughts and behavior. They do this to determine your weaknesses and strengths so that they can best manipulate you to buy. Manipulative questioning is also common in relationships and workplaces. Manipulating facts. Manipulators use this tactic to make excuses for their actions, or to blame the victim and accuse them of causing the victimization. They distort the truth and withhold vital information. They exaggerate or understate facts to create a single-sided bias. They use statistics and facts to overwhelm their victims. These reoral are intellectual bullies. They want their victims to believe they are experts and knowledgeable about certain topics, so they can gain their trust and manipulate them. They recognize that their victims may have limited knowledge of a problem and use that to their advantage. This is common among people who want to financially or professionally exploit their victims. They hope to manipulate their victims to push their agenda through by using expertise as their power. Some people use this tactic to demonstrate that they are more intelligent than others. To manipulate, use procedures and red tape. Some people use bureaucracy to manipulate others. They want to maintain authority and use laws and bylaws, as well as complicated procedures, to demonstrate their power. They make your life difficult by doing so, and you end up doing what they want. This technique is also used by people who want to hide the truth, hide their flaws, and avoid being scrutinized. Use of raised voice and display of negative emotions. Some individuals use aggression to manipulate their victims to gain an upper hand. They believe that by projecting a loud voice or displaying negative emotions, the victim will submit to their will and give them what they require. In this case, they also employ strong body language to increase their impact. Negative surprise. This is aimed at throwing their victim off balance so that they can gain an advantage over them. The information arrives without warning, leaving the victim with little or no time to prepare and count their moves. If you want the manipulator to continue working with you, they may coerce you further because they know you need them. Denying you time to decide. This tactic is commonly used in sales and negotiations. The manipulator presses you to decide without giving you time to consider the options. They believe that if they put tension on you, you will crack and give in to their demands. Use of negative humor. A manipulator will use this to control you and target your weaknesses. A manipulator will make remarks that he or she disguises as sarcasm or humor to make you appear inferior to them and insecure. They want to make their victims look and feel bad to impose psychological superiority over them. They use criticism and judgment. A manipulator will employ these tactics to make their victims feel inadequate. The manipulator openly chooses their victim. They marginalize, ridicule, and despise their victims, causing them to be humiliated. They willfully make you believe that there is something wrong with you and that they are superior to you. Regardless of your efforts, the manipulator works to make you feel inadequate. The manipulator focuses on negativity and does not provide constructive solutions or assistance to their victim. Use of silent treatment. A manipulator will never answer your calls or text messages. They control and overpower their victims by making them wait and instilling doubt and uncertainty in their minds. Silence is used as a leverage against their victims as a mind game. Pretend to ignore. The manipulator will play dumb at this point. They don't seem to understand what their victims want or want to do. The manipulator wants their victim to take responsibility while they sit back and watch. This tactic is commonly used by children when manipulating adults. They use it when they want to delay or stall something and force adults to do what they need to do. Some adults use this tactic to avoid their obligations. Manipulators target the soft spot for their victims by using unreasonable blame. They blame their victims for their unhappiness or failure. To get what they want, manipulators coerce victims by falsely blaming them for their own mistakes. Victimhood. The manipulator uses a condition. The MAU have to manipulate their victim. If they have a health condition, they use it to gain sympathy and favor. They want their victims to feel sorry for them so that they can get what they want. This tactic is used by manipulators to exploit the goodwill of others by making them feel guilty if they do not do as they are asked. Dark psychology is more common than people realize. Every individual is capable of dark tactics to get what they want. It is critical to understand that, while these tactics may appear to be harmless to some, they cause harm to the victims. There are those individuals who intentionally use these tactics to harm their victims. These people have developed a form of psychological personality disorder and necessitate treatment. It is critical to always double-check that you are not using these types of tactics to harm others. Psychological persuasion that beneficial to all parties is healthy and allowed. However, any type of manipulation aimed at taking advantage of another person is dark psychology. It is also important for you as an individual to recognize these tactics to avoid being manipulated. When a victim is manipulated, it can result in long-term psychological trauma. Avoid being negatively manipulated and protect your loved ones as well. Chapter 2. Secret of Deception. What exactly is deception? The Cambridge Dictionary defines deception as the act of concealing the truth. It is when a person employs dishonest and illegal means to obtain something or to persuade others that something is true when it is not. Understanding deception entails you acting in such a way that leads another person to believe something that you do not believe to be true. For example, assume Brian and Martin are two friends. They appear to be good friends. They do things together and hang out in the same social circles. Brian has a girlfriend named Kelly. Martin is aware that Kelly is Brian's girlfriend, but he has a crush on her. Kelly, on the other hand, has a crush on Martin, but neither of them wants Brian to know. Both Kelly and Martin avoid telling the truth or being discovered by acting normally where Brian is present but secretly flirting with each other. Brian never sees anything that makes him suspicious and believes the two are friends with genuine affection towards each other. He believes their relationship is nothing more than normal. Martin doesn't believe he's lied to Brian, and neither does Kelly because they believe it's harmful flirtation, and as long as Brian doesn't know, it won't hurt him. They don't believe they're lying to Brian, but they are tricking him into thinking the relationship he sees is innocent. This is just one example of how people frequently make decisions about others. Most people claim they are not deceiving others even when they intentionally withhold information from them. They do this because it makes them easier to deceive. You can ask yourself a simple question as a test to see if you are actually deceiving a person. If you're not hiding anything, why don't you tell the whole truth? By asking such a question, you are able to examine yourself and notice if you are withholding information to help another another person. The term deception refers to a wide range of behaviors. When you consider your deceptive behavior, you become very narrow-minded and justify it. This makes it easier for you to get rid of it and feel less guilty and accountable for your behavior. When a person takes a narrow view of deception, it helps them maintain a positive self-image, which makes getting away with deception easier. To better accomplish deceiving another person, one needs to withhold some information. Unfortunately, deception becomes broad in definition when you discover someone you love and trust has been deliberately misleading you. When it comes to deception, most people are hypocrites. It is not wrong if you leave out information or give misleading information. However, when it is you who is at the receiving end of the deception, you feel deceived. Going back to our story, Martin and Kelly believe it is acceptable to pretend when Brian is present, and they believe they are not deceiving him. If the same thing happened to them and they discovered it, they would automatically believe Brian was deceiving them. Regardless of how a person perceives it, deception is manipulative, and the person deceiving the other withholds the truth for their own selfish gains. When a person intentionally conceals the truth, intentionally misleads another, and intentionally promotes a belief for gain, that is deception. Deception is a transgression as relationships lead to a person feeling betrayed and breaks trust. It violates relationship rules and negatively abuses relationship expectations. Naturally, everyone expects their friends, partners, and, in some cases, strangers to be truthful at all times. People, however, find themselves undeceptive tactics without realizing the damage they cause. It is critical to avoid deception as much as possible if one hopes to build a lasting relationship with a loved one or a friend. Psychology deception. According to psychology, deception is the act of persuading someone to believe something that is not true. The act could be cruel or kind, small or large, but the goal is the same. According to studies, an average person lies various times in a single day, mostly through little white lies. The excuse given for most of these lies is that the person wanted to avoid an uncomfortable situation but had no intention of causing harm. Deception isn't always about telling others they're lying. There are also lies that people tell themselves. People deceive themselves for a variety of reasons, including boosting their ego and self-esteem. They begin as small lies that grow into serious delusions that they are unable to control, and they end up manipulating themselves. In most cases, these kinds of delusions end up jeopardizing the person's life. However, some experts argue that self-deception can be beneficial to a person. For example, when a person persuades themselves that they can achieve a certain goal even when presented with evidence, this can be of help. This may motivate the person to achieve the goals. A lot of research has been done over the years to help determine when a person is lying. The polygraph test is a well-known method of determining whether or not a person is lying. Although it is controversial, it has been widely used in dealing with criminal suspects to understand the truth. It is argued that the polygraph is not completely accurate in detecting deception. Individuals with certain personality disorders, such as antisocial personality disorders, researchers say cannot be measured accurately by a polygraph machine. Why do people lie? Previously, we stated that everyone lies. In fact, most of us lie each day through small lies that we believe are not harmful. The question remains, why do people find it necessary to lie? Nobody wants to discover that they have been deceived. When a public figure is caught in a lie, it becomes a scandal that attracts attention to their personal lives and destroys careers in some cases. While most people take pride in claiming that they are the best and do their best to distinguish themselves from those who are thought to be comfortable with falsehoods. The truth is that we all lie for various reasons. Some experts even dare to suggest that a level of deceit is necessary in order to have a healthy and well-functioning society. From theologians to ethicists and psychologists, there has been an argument on who people lie, and no one seems to come up with an answer. Choosing deception. It is difficult to make a decision. Many researchers have tried but failed to identify any cue that may signify deception. However, one can detect deception from the UA of a variety of cues with variety degrees of deception. By identifying a cluster of nonverbal and verbal cues, the probability of catching a liar can be increased. These cues are typically identified against a given baseline established when a person had no need to lie. Deviations from the baseline usually indicate the possibility of deception, though this is not always the case. The most effective way to detect deception is to compare what people say against some facts, though this may not always be the available approach. Many people, however, rely on both verbal and nonverbal cues to make decisions. Some verbal and nonverbal cues that may indicate deception are most liars have the tendency to answer questions that aren't asked. Most liars avoid directly answering a question and instead use another question as an answer. Liars avoid correcting themselves to avoid being perceived as being unsure about what they are communicating. Most liars feign memory loss by claiming they can't remember or recall certain things. Liars avoid reporting what they did and instead prefer to report what they did not do. Liars always feel the need to justify their actions and answers even when there is no need for justification. The liars avoid being emotional when accounting on events. When reporting, liars prefer using exact dates and times to demonstrate that they did not commit the said offense. Most liars ask for a repeated question because they claim they are not clear. The majority of liars express emotions, but they are not genuine. Most liars narrate about festivities or events in few words. Liars fosso and describe the weaknesses and flaws of others to deviate attention. Liars use passive language when describing a nothing. A liar's reverse is a truthful person. They tend to refer to past lessons and experiences in the past when narrating something. They make reference to mistakes in the past. When a person is truthful, they welcome dialogue when describing events. Well, when reporting on various activities or events, they do not use dates or timelines. When reporting on activities and events, a truthful person will not sound rehearsed. When a person is truthful, they'll report unexpected or unusual events that happened. When describing or reporting about an event, a truthful person may use sensory information like how the raw lace smelled, and so on. It is critical to exercise caution when using the aforementioned or other verbal and nonverbal cues to make a decision. This is because there is no single verbal or nonverbal cue that can be used to detect a lie. It's also worth noting that liars, even if unintentionally, may say things that make something appear true. At the same time, a truthful person may also come as a liar. This means that, while determining deception is possible, it is not an easy task. Tactics deceptive. What is called deceptive tactics is play that deliberately aims at deceiving an opponent's capabilities or intentions. Person using deceptive tactics wants the opponent to make decisions that are beneficial to the person's goals when a person's goals. When a person does this, they can also fail to make a decision, which is also a decision. When you make a good decision, it reduces your opponent's options while increasing yours. Some people are very calculating in life. They deceive intentionally and usually think through their deception tactics to ensure they succeed. Manipulation is a type of deception person intentionally deceives their opponent in order to get what you want. So, how does a person succeed in determining the other? There are several steps to take for a person to succeed in deception. These steps are master deceivers. 1. Define your goal. Know your purpose before you do anything or employ any tactic. What do you want to achieve, and what is the best strategy to ensure your success? You want to destabilize your opponent and gain a leverage over them. Perhaps you want to tempt your opponent by promising them a one-chance opportunity, or you want them to believe they are the best at what they do. By doing so, your opponent relinquishes their guard because it is so simple to get what you want. 2. Define your deceiver. A master deceiver plans ahead and is able to alter their tactics on the spot to avoid being detected. They make certain that their decision is simple and convincing. They arrive prepared with what they want their opponent to believe. However, in some cases, being simple may not engage the mind of your opponent. Ensure you have a balance between what you want your opponent to know and believe. 3. Assess your opponent. If a person wants to succeed in deception, then make sure the deception is believable. You sit back and delicately plan how they will. They consider various questions that their opponent may have and come up with possible answers to make the lie appear authentic. When analyzing their opponent, a deceiver must see them as they are, not as they want them to be. This is critical if the scheme is to be a success. 4. Synchronize your information. You believe your opponent will accept the decision. A deceiver will now proceed and sell the deception. Deceivers always make sure they have various alternatives to play their deception, but it is always synchronized to avoid detection. Person using deception to manipulate is frequently very careful that the lies fall in place smoothly. 5. Keep your mind and eyes open. A deceiver will be able to notice how their opponent reacts to their deception. They are keen enough that they can change the narrative and maintain the deception. The goal here is to stay on top of the game and ensure that the opponent detects nothing that would cause them to fail to do what the deceiver desires. Business deception tactic. Negotiations are common in business. Deceptions are used in various ways, as we had earlier indicated, and the spectrum of deception is broad. In business, deception is used not to harm another person, but to gain leverage over your competitors, investors, or customers. There are various tiers of ways deception is used in the business raws. Some of the lies used in business are as follows. 1. Lies concerning the bottom figures and alternatives. A counterpart may come with a statement indicating how low or high she may go if taken in at the negotiation table. This type of statement should be carefully considered but not taken at face value. Do not allow yourself to be deceived instead of researching the claims presented and exploring other alternatives before committing. 2. Very good offers are not always true. Some proposals may include offers that appear to be too good to pass up. Avoid such offers, especially if they come from a country. The majority of the offers that some like the offer a raw deal. Examine every offer you receive and carefully read through the terms. If you notice hypothetical questions in the narrative, you may have a bad deal. When an offer is framed in an abstract form, it is frequently hiding something. If in doubt, always insist on reading the fine print. 3. Scalating comment. Sometimes a person may be persuaded to make a significant business commitment. The other party may be aware that you have been looking for something similar, and you can't pass on the opportunity. They use your need to force you to make a hasty decision by threatening you with the fact that other people are looking for the same thing. You make a significant investment without thinking and with the fear of losing, only to realize it was a bad investment. Do not be afraid to walk away. Staying in the deal that you deceived to take in the first place will be more financially draining than walking away. 4. A lack of reciprocity. The reciprocity norm states that during a negotiation, concession should happen on both sides and must be done in equal measure. Avoid further negotiations with a counterpart if he fails to match your concession and just talks instead of showing commitment. Confront him, and if he does not cooperate, walk away from the deal. 5. Last-minute nibbling. A counterpart may decide to make a request just as you are about to sign the deal. This request may sound modest enough for you to agree to it. Counterpart may be on the advantage of knowing you need to finish the deal to gain more advantage over you. Be cautious about this and insist that you expect the counterpart to give you similar concessions as well. Relationship deception. Trust is one of the cornerstones of any relationship. Trust is very fragile. When partners in a relationship have secrets or you lies, they jeopardize their relation. Higher we all lie, as earlier indicated. We use small white lies, such as saying you're fine when you're not or justifying a gift you didn't like. We frequently lie to people with whom we are not in a romantic relationship. If someone was expecting a check from us, we can safely lie the check is in the mail when it has not been drawn. The importance of honesty in a relationship cannot be overstated. It is more than just not lying, making ambiguous statements, withholding information by telling half-truths, and manipulating information by emphasizing some points or exaggerating are all examples of decision making in any situation. Withholding feelings in a relationship is also a form of deception because it affects the relationship. Most people consider themselves to be the honest. The truth is that few of us reveal our thoughts and feelings, especially when they're negative. It takes courage to reveal your negative feelings and thoughts about people close to you. If we continue to lie, it could cost us a lot of money. Most liars are constantly concerned about the possibility of being exposed or exposed. As a result, they lie more and more. It is dark psychology when a person uses lies to manipulate their partner into doing what they want. Its deception in a relationship may harm. Some of the ways deception can be harmful are: deception obstructs genuine intimacy with your partner. For a couple to be intimate, They must have trust and authenticity between them. Deception causes partners to be emotionally naked with each other. Deception leads to cover-ups and even more lies and omissions. This be some hard to keep track of. If the truth is revealed, it may harm the relationship more than the original secrecy did. When the truth is hidden for too long, it becomes more difficult to reveal it. And when revealed, it destroys trust. The holder of the secret is always consumed with guilt and feels uncomfortable during intimate moments with the person they have deceived. Certain topics, as well as closeness, tend to be avoided. Honesty is a moral norm, but it may differ depending on context or culture. Hiding the truth violates religious and cultural norms, and as a result, the deceiver feels anxious and guilty despite his or her efforts to conceal the truth. This type of physiologic reaction is used in electronic lie detector tools. The guilt that one feels affects one's self-concept. Deception over a long period can affect a person's self-esteem. The guilt that a person feels that could have been handled with honor becomes shameful and undermines one's dignity and sense of self-worth. The holder of the lie suffers mental distress as a result of the deception. This, in turn, may lead to health complications as a result of the stress. The victim of the decision reacts to how their partner avoids them with confusion, anger, anxiety, abandonment, or suspicion. The victim may begin to have self-doubt, which may affect their self-esteem. Most victims of betrayal require counseling to rebuild trust and self-esteem. Deception is a technique in dark psychology in which a person intentionally uses lies to get their way. Almost everyone lies. Small little white lies develop into big lies, especially when people realize they're able to get away with the lies. However, if not checked, these lies can be harmful to the victim. Deception exists in a variety of the spectrum. People lie to get what they want, from the business field to personal relationships. Deception is a type of manipulation that people use on a daily basis. Unfortunately, most of us believe that small white lies do not cause harm, but they do in the long run. As a person, you must be aware of these tactics in business as well as in personal and intimate relationships. Deception as a manipulation tactic can cause a lot of damage. Unfortunately, this tactic is so common that people forget where the line should be drawn. Salesmen will use deception to try and get people to buy their products. Sportsmen will use deceit to gain leverage against their opponents to ensure a win. People in business will use deception to lure investors or gain leverage against their competitors. Children will use deception to manipulate adults into giving in to their demands. Partners in a relationship will use deception to influence the decisions of the other or to keep secrets. With deception being so widely used, it leads to betrayal feelings, especially in personal or intimate relationships. It is critical to try to ensure that our deals are above board at all times and that we are alert when we use lies. Deception can give temporary gratification, but when used for a long time, the damage outweighs the gains made. Chapter 3. Understanding Dark Persuasion. What exactly is dark persuasion? Persuasion is the act of persuading another person to believe something through the use of various reasoning or arguments. There is ethical persuasion and dark persuasion. The distinction between these two types of persuasions is the intent. An ethical persuader may try to persuade another person to do something without giving much thought to specific tactics. They may do this without ulterior motive or real understanding of the person they are trying to persuade. This persuader may be concerned with making good for many people, like a diplomat, negotiating against the war. This persuader has been known to be ethical. On the other hand, there is a dark persuader. This particular individual is well aware of the larger picture. He has a thorough understanding of the person he is attempting to persuade, what motivates them, and how far they can push their tactic to be successful. Doing the right thing is not the motivation of a dark persuader, regardless of how moral their manipulation is. When a dark persuader identifies a thing they want, they develop a way to get it and do not care who gets hurt in the process. Their goal is to always get what benefits them, regardless of the cost. When should persuasion be used? Every person uses persuasion in various ways every day. Children use persuasion to persuade their parents to do or buy something for them. Partners persuade each other in intimate relationships to get what each wants. Persuasion is common in business. A business owner must persuade his or her customers to purchase his or her services or products. Writers also use persuasion to entice people to buy their books. Persuasion is common and can be ethical or unethical depending on the person doing the persuasion. Individuals are persuaded using various techniques. These techniques can be used for dark persuasion as well as ethical persuasion. The goal of any form of persuasion is to persuade your opponent, partner, or audience to do what you want them to do so that you benefit. When the only person who stands to gain is the one doing the persuasion, it becomes unethical persuasion. When one person gains, it means getting what one person wants at the expense of the other person. Persuasive techniques in business. Persuasion is common in every field, as earlier stated. If a person is a certain outcome, they may result in the other person being persuaded for the same. Some of the techniques individuals use to persuade others, whether ethically or unethically, are resonating with the other person's problems. Every person has one problem or another. Manufacturers and service providers design their products with this knowledge in mind. They understand that to sell their service or product, they must solve a certain problem. If you want someone to do something for you, you should appeal to their emotional side as well. People who want to persuade others to gain selfish make sure to understand the emotional problems and appeal to it. Psychopaths who persuade their victims to take advantage can recognize the emotional side of their victims through cognitive empathy. When you show someone that you understand their problems, you can easily get them to do what you want them to do, whether you're selling a product or a service. A person wants to find a solution to their problem. On the other hand, a person that feels they have a friend in another one that is pretending to empathize with their situation is likely to please their empathizer by, if you're a writer, you should put yourself in the shoes of your readers. You must give your readers what solves their problems, making them see that you know them. If you resonate with your audience on their problems, they are more likely to resonate with you on your solutions. Understanding your audience is critical to being able to persuade them. If you're a business owner looking to sell a product, you should ask yourself some of the following questions to connect with your customers. These questions are dependent on the server or rodust you sell. As an example, what is the world's perspective on your audience's finances? What is your emotional view of the world about your audience? What is the world's spiritual perspective on your audience? How does the rest of the world perceive your audience? In response, a business person may see the world in relationship to their customer as his target customer's purchasing power is average. Your customers are struggling to make ends meet. Spiritually, your customers wish to get value from you. Physically, your clients are dealing with health issues. Being able to understand your audiences as a businessman will enable you to persuade them to buy your services or products. Psychopath understands this principle and ensures that their potential victim forms a pretentious to make it easy to persuade them. I.e. to persuade, use facts or dates. Not everything is emotional. Whether you want to persuade someone ethically or unethically, especially in business. The use of analytical information and data goes a long way. The person doing the persuasion understands his or her audience and employs the tools at their disposal to obtain what they desire. For example, if a person wants to persuade another to buy a product that they know is bad, The Mao use fake figures to persuade their potential client. Not all products are aimed at resolving emotional issues. The use of data strengthens a person's pitch when persuading another. The best way to persuade someone to buy your product is to provide irrefutable evidence that your product or service is the best. An ethical person will produce genuine evidence, whereas an unethical person will produce convincing fake evidence. Illustrate social proof. This is the psychological evidence where a person assumes the actions of another as an attempt to demonstrate right behavior in a particular situation. This means that when a person makes a decision, they want other people to see it as the best decision. These people will include people we hold in high regard, potential clients, and random strangers. In the recent past, social proof has been in the form of recommendations from social influencers, testimonials from pseudomers, and social share count. People who have ethical intentions in their persuasion will genuine feedback from their customers. They do not hide their negative reviews from potential customers. Instead, they provide both the good and the bad so that the customer can make an informed decision. And individuals who are out to use unethical persuasion may fabricate customer reviews. They may even go ahead and delete any genuine reviews from customers if they reflect badly on them. All of this is done to persuade customers to buy what they are selling on the basis that it is good. Tine you to connect emotionalu. When talking to prospective clients, a person Mao you a friendly tone. Your tone can show interest in a customer's needs or can show interest in a customer's needs or can show a don't care attitude towards the client. Your tone can make a person yield or not to your persuasion. After studying the situation, a psychopath will know what type of tone to use to persuade their victim to yield to their demands. This is the same even in business. A salesman must study the mood of his audience and use the appropriate tone to persuade them. When a partner needs something from the other, they observe their partner's mood and know the appropriate tone to use if you hope to persuade them. It is also important for a person to be aware of their tone. It is possible for a tone to either insult or encourage. Psychopaths understand this all too well and are careful to use a tone that is appealing to their audience. They will use polite words and show patience with potential victims to get what they want. The same tactic should be used in ethical persuasions. When deciding whether to be ethical or unethical, it is critical to take time and ensure all objectives are solved. When attempting to persuade someone, do not be in a hurry. Patience is a key word. Psychopaths are never in a hurry with their patience. You might be surprised to learn that con men are the most patient people. This is because for their scheme to work, they must pretend to be interested in the victim and make them feel at ease. When trying to persuade a potential client to buy their service or product, a business person must be patient. Use of rhetorical questions. A person is not supposed to answer a rhetorical question, but it is meant to provoke the thoughts of the other person. Psychopaths understand that to effectively persuade their victims, they must ask rhetorical questions. In business, rhetorical questions provoke thought. They cause someone to think outside the box or influence someone towards the result you want from them. Writers who want to persuade their readers are known to open their first paragraphs with a hook. When giving a sales pitch or a presentation, you must captivate your audience. The best way to begin is with a hook. Similarly, a psychopath understands that to get his victim's interest, he or she must begin their persuasion tactic with an enticing prospect. This before a person presents other facts is the first step in persuading a person. Begin with small requests and progress to larger ones. This tactic is used in all types of persuasion. You don't start by asking for something very large. Instead, you start with small things. Once the person has yielded, you can progress to bigger things. And make statements that are succinct and to the point. A complicated narrative is confusing to the other person. Psychopaths assume their victims know nothing and need to make them understand. They will use precise statements that are clear and simple to understand. The same applies to business. If you need to persuade someone to make a certain decision, using precise short statements that are clear will persuade them faster than a lot of narratives. Persuasion, and art. It starts with a person understanding what outcome they want and formulating the best strategy for successful persuasion. The outcome is what determines the persuasion. To you technique. Other persuading techniques used. Persuasion is used to persuade someone of something they would not have considered otherwise. Advertisements are one-way persuasion techniques are used. The same techniques that are used to manipulate a person. The same techniques that are used to manipulate a person. There are other ways a person can persuade you. These are appealing to authority. If you are trying to persuade a person to do something, using important people or experts to pass your point across is very convincing. When you reliable research, you can make your argument very convincing and sway your audience. As an example, a person can say, example. The first lady of the former Michelle Obama has stated that the only way to eradicate childhood obesity is to eliminate junk food from vending machines. Example. Watching TV, according to a recent study, reduces stress, causing a reduction in the risk of heart diseases. Both of these statements, whether true or false, can persuade a person that what is being said is true because a person has appealed to authority. Dark persuasion can also appeal to authority to persuade their victim to do what they want them to do. Appeal to reason. People is easily persuaded when a person uses logic to persuade them. For example, a person might say, a bar of chocolate contains 300 calories and 20 grams of sugar. That's not so bad. You can still enjoy a bar of chocolate every day because it is within your caloric limit. Although that statement is not entirely correct, a person who wants you to push their sales, but knows it is not healthy for you, will use it to persuade you. People tend to trust where there are figures, believing the information to be authentic. This tactic is widely used to manipulate individuals into doing what others want. Empathize or appeal to emotion. Making a person feel sad, angry, or happy can help you persuade them. For example, a person may tell you that your donation is important because it will feed a hungry child for a day or two. If you do not give, a child will go hungry and die, and you will be a part of the reason. Both of these statements are intended to persuade an individual to contribute. The first appeals to the person to empathize with the situation, whereas the second serves to guilt, trip the individual. Both statements want to get a contribution. However, one is used ethically, whereas the other is unethical or involves dark persuasion. Appealing to trust. If a person trusts and believes you, it is easier to persuade them. Most psychopaths ensure that their victims trust them, and this is how they can persuade them. It is nearly impossible to persuade someone who does not trust you. Trust is essential if one is to be persuaded. For example, if a person appears to be doing well financially and tells you to invest in something, the Mao say to trust them because that's how they began. They know you want to have financial stability, and they know you'll believe them because you know their story. If this person is genuine, then you have made a genuine investment. Embezzlers, on the other hand, are people who are trusted by those who invest with them. They persuade their victims to invest in certain things because it pays. You believe them because they appear to have a good reputation and appear to know what they are doing. Unfortunately, this person is appealing to your trust to invest your hard-earned money, but they swindle you. This is dark persuasion in action. All the people who had their funds embezzled trusted their embezzlers. Plain folk. Manipulators understand that to persuade their victims or audience, they must appear to be the average kind of a person. Politicians, for example, use persuasion tactics to get voters. He or she may simply state, "I am an average person. I relate to the suffering we have endured under the current leadership, and it is time to change the narrative. I grew up in this neighborhood with you. I faced the same challenges, and I'm the best candidate." This type of appeal is used to demonstrate that a politician is an average person. Just like the voters, the politician wants the voters to believe he can relate to them because he is one of them. Whether the information is true or not, whether the politician simply wants votes and will do nothing, he will manage to persuade the electorate through such statements. A bandwagon. This is the assumption that because everyone trusts it, it must be good or true. This I veru summon in advertisements. As an example, that a company promoting its brand of toothpaste may claim that 2 out of every American household uses this product. For generations, families have relied on it to provide the best in cavity protection. Nobody wants to have cavities. If you are convinced that that product is the #1 bestseller and that the majority of the people trust it, you will definitely buy it. It is critical to remember that some of these statistics are false. Companies can invent lies to increase product sales regardless of whether the product performs as advertised. A bandwagon is another tactic used majorly on social media. If a person notices many likes regarding a particular, the assumption is that if a lot of people like it, it must be good. However, it is possible that the advertisement, rather than the product, was well crafted. A rhetorical question. When a person wants to persuade another, they will use rhetorical questions. For example, if a person is promoting a skincare regimen, they may ask their audience who wouldn't like to have fair, glowing skin. The answer is obvious. It causes the person to think about and wish for flawless skin, which leads to the purchase of the product. Another person may want to sell you shares knowing very well that the share value want to draw. They show you convincing figures and ask, "Wouldn't you like to make money?" Even the world's wealthiest person wishes to make more money. This tactic will eventually persuade you to invest, even if it is a bad investment. Persuasion laments. Persuasion is all about selling. Selling a story, a product, or a service. Everyone has been persuaded in one way or another. You might have been persuaded to take a certain job, get married, buy something, or believe in something bigger than you thought you could. You're probably dating right now, and it took persuasion to get you to go on a first date or another, and so on. The person has persuaded you to the point where you want to know more about them. Every day, someone persuades someone else to do things that will directly benefit them. That's selling. Selling does not have to be in monetary value, but it can be a belief. In this sense, selling is convincing someone of something they believe they want or don't know if they want, or selling them something they must have. For example, if Girl Scouts come knocking on your door to sell you cookies, you don't need them, but you want them, and they will persuade you to buy them. Persuasion can be viewed in a variety of ways. Person can use persuasion for their own selfish gains, or they can use persuasion ethically for the mutual benefit of the parties involved. Alternatively, the elements to persuade a person are the same, but the motives or intent may differ. There are numerous elements to persuasion that lead to effective communication. Each element is discussed in detail below. Persuasion laments for effective communication. The communicational. The communicator is the person who is attempting to persuade the listener. He or she must be able to deliver the message without any interruptions. According to experts, it is not what is said but how it is said that makes a message effective. To persuade the listener, the communicator must ensure that the message is delivered in such a way that the listener interprets it exactly as the communicator intended. To do this effectively, the communicator must have believable credibility, be trustworthy, have a likable and patient personality. When a communicator lacks on "new" of these, "thou" are less likely to be listened to. Individuals who are good at persuading, whether ethically or unethically, have these qualities about them. The message's content. The message that the communicator is sending to the listener must be of interest to them. The communicator must research their listener, know what the need or their problem, and allude to it. When a communicator identifies a listener's problem, they offer solutions. This is what the listener desires, and by doing so, the communicator will triumph over the listener. The communication channel. You expect a response if you communicate with a person. The channel you use to deliver message matters. Choose a channel that gives you the best restaurants and in the fastest manner. If you need to make a call to get an immediate response, then make a call. Understand your audience so you can use the best communication channel to persuade them. The listeners or audience. The determinants are the audience. Who can tell if the communicator is doing a good job of persuasion? When delivering a message, the listener's communicator must observe the listener's nonverbal clues. For example, check to see if the listener is focused on your message by leaning in to show interest, smiling, shaking their head, or even sitting up. Other cues that indicate interest are if the listener is asking questions and, if you are selling a product, asking to buy pathos this and logos. The main elements of persuasion. 3 elements of persuasion were between the elements of persuasion were between the elements of these were the pathos, logos, and ethos. Logos denotes logic, ethos denotes the emotional connection, and pathos denotes the emotional connection. Logos. The words and reasons you have for your argument are referred to as logos. When persuading a person, have everything fit together before you start passing on the information. Ensure that your argument is coherent by thinking it through before you begin to speak. To persuade effectively, arrange your points in a sequence that starts from the general to the particular or from the beginning to the end. Allow each subsequent point to build on the previous one so that your argument is persuasive. Ethos. Those in persuasion reference to the communicator's ethic. Character, credibility, and believability matter to your audience as a communicator. You must increase your credibility towards your audience during and before you pass on the message to persuade effectively. If the listener thinks you're credible, they're likely to value your opinion and advice. Pathos. Pathos is the emotional aspect of your communication. To persuade effectively, you must appeal to your listener's emotional side. Increased emotional connection enables them to transform their thinking and take the action that the communicator was hoping for. Any type of persuasion is divided into these 3 elements. Before you can persuade someone, whether ethically or unethically, you must appeal to logic. Have your facts correct, or at the very least, have your facts correct, or at the very least, have convincing facts. You must be willing to answer any questions that the listener may have for you. This demonstrates to them that you know what you're talking about and that your information is reliable. The credibility of a communicator to his audience is an important aspect of persuasion. The listener must believe and trust what you are telling them, and it begins with the feeling that they can trust you. To get a connection to your listener, your reputation must be good. Toward resolving a problem, every communication should be geared. Every person has a problem that they want to solve. Appealing to your audience's emotions will enable you to determine what their needs are, and when you address those needs, you will be successful in persuading them. Chapter 4. Hypnosis. Hypnosis is also known as hypnotherapy. A trance-like state where a person's focus, as well as their concentration, are heightened. Hypnosis is performed with the assistance of a therapist who employs verbal repetitions and mental pictures. When a person is placed under hypnosis, they typically feel relaxed, calm, and open to suggestions. Therapists have used hypnosis to help individuals gain control over undesirable behaviors. Hypnosis has also been found to be beneficial in dealing with anxiety and pain. Although a person is relaxed and more open-minded to receive various suggestions, it is important to know that a person does not lose control over their behavior. What is the purpose of hypnosis? According to therapists, hypnosis is an excellent way to cope with anxiety and stress. For example, if someone is about to undergo a medical procedure that they are nervous about, hypnosis can help calm them down before the procedure. There are numerous conditions where hypnosis is used. These may include pain control. If a person suffers from chronic pains caused by cancer, childbirth, joints, headaches, and others, hypnosis may help in bearing the pain. Hot flushes. When a woman is going through menopause, she will experience hot flushes that are uncomfortably hot most of the time. Hypnosis has been shown to alleviate the discomfort of hot flushes. The behavior change. Some Rioral Mao discover themselves have undesirable behaviors. These include, among other things, bed, wedding, insomnia, and eating disorders. The use of hypnosis has been known to aid in the transformation of undesirable behaviors. Cancer side effects treatment. Patients receive chemotherapy and radiation treatment during cancer treatment. These types of treatment leave the patient with unfavorable side effects. The use of hypnosis helps cancer patients deal with these effects and cope with the treatment. Mental health conditions. Manu Rioral suffer from various mental health conditions such as post-traumatic stress, anxiety, phobias, and Manu more. The use of hypnosis can help a person deal with these conditions and find relief. What are the dangers of hypnosis? When performed by a trained therapist or a medical practitioner, hypnosis is regarded as a safe addition and alternative treatment. However, hypnosis may not be the best method to use for people who have serious mental health issues. There are numerous reactions to hypnosis. However, these reactions are rare and the Sontain. After the person may feel dizzy. Experience small headaches. A person may feel drowsy after therapy. Person can be depressed or anxious. Hypnosis can create false memories in rare cases. Getting ready for hypnosis. There is no need for special preparations before a hypnosis session. However, it is recommended for a person to be comfortable and relaxed. It is also critical for a person to be well rested to avoid falling asleep during therapy. Before you go to therapy, research and ensure that the therapist you've chosen is certified to perform hypnosis. Look for someone you trust who has undergone hypnosis and ask for referrals. You can also choose to interview the therapist before the session by learning some of the following. Is your therapist licensed and certified to provide hypnosis? Where did the therapist receive his training? How much hypnotherapy training does your therapist have? And where did they get it? Is your therapist a member of any professional organizations? And if so, which ones? How long has the therapist been practicing? How much does it cost per session, and are their sessions covered by insurance? Once you've decided on a therapist, he or she will explain the procedure and your expectations. The therapist will also review your treatment goals with your assistants to ensure that they are correct. The therapist will then embark on talking in a gentle, soothing voice as he describes pictures that create relaxation, well-being, and security. When you are relaxed and in a state of reception, the therapist will begin suggesting ways you can achieve your goals. A therapist may also help you have a vivid mental picture of yourself accomplishing the goals. When the session is finished, you can either bring yourself out of it or the therapist will assist you in getting out of your relaxation state. One does not lose control of their behavior while under hypnosis. The person is always aware and remembers everything that happened during the hypnosis session. Hypnosis is used to help people cope with pain, anxiety, and stress. And it is also used in cognitive behavioral therapy to change undesirable behaviors and thoughts. However, hypnosis is not recommended for everyone. Some people find it difficult to become hypnotized, whereas others find it simple and enjoy the benefits. The 3 stages of hypnosis. Hypnosis is a process that involves deep body and mind relaxation. Before we get to the various hypnosis stages, we must first understand how hypnosis works, or the process of hypnotherapy. 1. Getting ready. Every hypnotherapy session with a qualified therapist must be carried out in a relaxed, safe, and calm environment with no interruptions of any kind. A preliminary discussion is usually held between the therapist and the person to be hypnotized. This is usually done to determine if the person has had prior hypnotism sessions and their experiences, as well as to try to establish the problem that needs to be worked on. Most problems include a behavior or thoughts that a person needs to balance or completely change. For example, a person may be struggling with wedding. This behavior is addressed and changed with the help of hypnosis. During the preliminary talk, a skilled therapist should gather as much information as possible. This is important so that he can work on the best technique for the specific person and problem. Most therapists use a loose pattern during the session. It is as follows: repairing a client and screening a client, inducting a client into an altered state consciousness state, deepening the trance state that opens suggestibility. Suggestions for post-hypnotic states. This is where advice on the problem that the therapist worked on is given. 2. Induction. The first 15 minutes of a typical hypnotherapy session are spent helping the client relax their mind and body. This stage is known as the induction stage. It entails assisting a person to enter into a light state of trance through the use of relaxation techniques that work on both the mind and the body. Overall, the person is encouraged to relax their muscles and mind. This technique aims to rid a person of any tension and release anxiety. The therapist instructs the client on how to slow and control their breathing. This is also done to help relax and distract the conscious mind so that a person can focus on the subconscious mind. Because there are many methods of induction, the therapist must understand their client and apply a method that works for them. 3. Deepen a trance. This stage prepares the subconscious mind to be more receptive to suggestions or new behavior. When the mind accepts new thought patterns, there is a behavior change. Some therapists may choose to continue reinforcing the induction method used to deepen the trance. The method can be accompanied by visualization techniques that are very deep to increase the trance. A qualified therapist understands the importance of a person being deeply altered in consciousness before starting hypnotic suggestions. Now that you understand how hypnosis works, it is critical to understand the 3 stages of hypnosis. Stage 1. Hypnoidal state. This is the light induction stage. At this stage, the person is encouraged to relax and maintain an internal focus. This stage is light and is characterized by the fluttering of the person's eyes. Cataleptic state. Stage 2. This is the stage at when the therapist moves to the trance state. If a person is in this state, their eyes move from one side to the other. Somnambulistic state. Stage 3. This is the most dear stage in a trance. The rolling up and down of the eyes demonstrates this. This is the stage at which suggestions are given and received at a subconscious level, and the person may not remember hearing them in some cases. Hypnosis applications. Hypnosis has been known to exist for as long as records have been kept. According to the American Society for Clinical Hypnosis, the use of modern clinical hypnosis dates back to the late 1700s. Since 1958, the use of hypnotherapy as a form of reliable therapy has increased dramatically. In different ways, hypnotherapy has found you in the modern world. Hypnosis is used in a variety of settings, ranging from mental health to psychological and physical conditions. It is used on people who suffer from chronic pain, depression, and sudden and acute illnesses, among other things. Most health professionals nowadays recommend the use of hypnosis to treat their clients suffering from various conditions. Some of the applications of hypnosis include treatment of phobias and fears. Unreasonable, irrational fear or phobia of anything can be treated through the use of hypnosis. Many people struggle with phobias on a daily basis, causing them to be unable to function normally. Some of the fears that paralyze people are fear of spiders or arachnophobia, fear of enclosed spaces or claustrophobic fear of heights, snakes, flying, or agoraphobia. The hypnotherapist will work with a patient while they are hypnotized to try and identify the causes of their fears and work on finding solutions to them. Smoking cessation. Some people want to quit smoking but find it difficult to do so. Most smokers try several times to change themselves, regardless of how determined a smoker is to quit smoking. It is not easy, and they may require assistance. A hypnotist may be able to help them. In a relaxed environment, the therapist works on understanding the various stress factors in the client's life that may be causing fall back to smoking. The therapist will search the subconscious mind for these reasons and make suggestions on how to stop. Once the subconscious mind has received the suggestions, the person can change their behavior by addressing the stress factors. Loss of weight. Many people struggle with weight loss and frequently believe they have lost the battle with food. A qualified hypnotherapist can help a person learn more about their relationship with food. They also learn why they have no control over their food and how to overcome their cravings. A therapist can suggest ways to overcome the destructive behavior and have a healthy relationship with food through hypnosis. Increasing confidence. Many people suffer from low self-esteem issues. Such people may need assistance to gain their confidence back. Most people lose confidence because they can seem to embrace their good qualities. A therapist can help such a person find their confidence by tapping on their best qualities, which are subconsciously hidden. Anesthesiology and surgery. There are cases where a surgeon may hire a hypnotherapist to supplement medical anesthesia. In some extremely rare cases, hypnotherapy has been used solely as an anesthetic during a surgical procedure. Some procedures in which surgeons have used hypnotherapy include gallbladder removal, cesarean, hysterectomy, and amputation. There are patients with sensitiveness and allergies to chemicals used in anesthesia. However, they can still benefit from health, improving, and life-saving procedures using hypnotherapy. Many people's lives have been improved thanks to hypnosis. Hypnotism has been known to help many patients transform their thoughts and, in effect, change their outward behaviors for better in cognitive behavioral therapy. Hypnotherapy types. There are many different types of hypnotherapy techniques used in the world today. Different therapies can be used to treat a given condition, depending on the need of the client and the therapist. However, here we are going to debate on some hypnotherapies available. Cognitive hypnotherapy. Cognitive hypnotherapy employs hypnosis to align the subconscious mind with the conscious mind and the way it perceives reality. Cognitive hypnotherapy is most useful for dealing with anxiety and phobias, but it can also be used for other conditions. Ricksonian hypnotherapy. Milton Rickson was a family psychiatrist and medical hypnotist. He pioneered the use of hypnotherapy to address a wide range of issues. Storytelling is used in Ricksonian hypnotherapy to change behavior while the patient is under hypnosis. Psychotherapy. This is an approach in which hypnosis is used alongside other types of psychotherapy such as mindfulness and psychodynamic therapy, among others. Therapists who provide this type of therapy frequently have training in both psychotherapy and hypnotherapy. A therapist can analyze more deep-seated issues through hypnotherapy and is helpful for individuals that feel they need more. Hypnoanalysis. It is based on analytical psychotherapy concepts. The goal of hypnoanalysis is to identify the trigger or cause of an event that leads to the problem at hand. The hypnotist assists in resolving negative associations that arise from a problem by understanding the root of the problem, This process can take several sessions because the patient and the therapist need to build a trusting relationship. Programming in neurolinguistics. NLP. This is a technique hypnotherapists most frequently use in their practice. This technique is designed to help patients help themselves reach their best state of ment and attain happiness. Previous life regression. This technique's therapists believe each person has a past and they use hypnosis to recover past memories. They believe these memories can help understand who a person is struggling with various issues and who they are better. This is a holistic therapy that addresses the mind, spirit, body, and emotions. Past life regression is especially useful when a person feels stuck on certain past issues. Solution. Focused hypnotism. This type of hypnotherapy focuses on the present. It looks at your current situation to determine what your future will be like. This therapy is centered on the client, which means that the client takes the lead in the session while being guided by the hypnotherapist. In this session, a client focuses on setting goals and questioning techniques that one needs to get resolutions. It is based on the premise that a client has inner strength and resources to draw on and heal themselves. Hypnotherapy is a suggestion. Suggestion techniques are used in most types of hypnotherapy. Hypnotherapy promises that when a person is in a hypnotic state, their subconscious is more open to suggestions or advice. During hypnotherapy, suggestions are made to assist the patient in altering his or her thought pattern. This technique is ideal for transforming behaviors, and it also helps in dealing with anxiety and stress. Timeline therapy. Timeline therapy is based on the belief that a person's memories are stored in a linear pattern. A timeline therapist uses various techniques to help a person release limiting beliefs and negative emotions that are linked to their past. This technique is believed to be very helpful in dealing with depression, stress, and anxiety disorders. Neuro-linguistic development, NLP. Neuro-linguistic programming is a method of transforming a person's thought patterns and behaviors to achieve desired results. The use of NLP is widespread, having begun in the 1970s. It is widely used in the treatment of anxiety disorders and phobias. It is also widely used to improve work performance and personal happiness. NLP employs consistent communication and behavioral techniques to enable people to change their actions and thoughts. It relies on processing language but not the natural language used by people. The developer of NLP believed that it was possible to identify the thought patterns and behaviors of successful individuals and teach them to others. How does it work? NLP is difficult to define because it varies in interpretation. It is based on the idea that people function by using internal maps that they have learned through sensory experiences. NLP attempts to identify and change our unconscious biases and limitations in how we view life. NLP is not a type of hypnotherapy, but it uses language to transform thoughts and behaviors in individuals. NLP is based on the idea that a person is biased towards a particular sensory system called preferred representation system. Paris, therapists, can identify the preference through language buong phrases like, "I see your point." An NLP practitioner will be able to identify a person's PERS and base their therapy around it. This may entail the creation of a rapport, the gathering of information, and the setting of goals. NLP techniques. NLP practitioners use various techniques because it is a broad area of practice. These are some examples. Anchoring is the process of transforming a person's sensory experiences into triggers for specific emotional states. Rapport. The practitioner identifies with the person by cloning their physical behaviors to enhance communication and response empathetically. The swish pattern. The change of behavior patterns and thoughts to get the desired outcome, as opposed to undesired one-visual kinesthetic dissociation. VD, is NELP effective? It is difficult to determine how effective NELP is. This is because this technique has not been subjected to the same scientific standards as other, more established therapy techniques such as cognitive behavioral therapy. NELP also lacks formal regulation, making the claims of its effectiveness anecdotal or as supplied by the developer. Because NELP providers have a financial interest in the technology, it is difficult to use their evidence. NELP covert. Many people are skeptical about the ethics of using covert hypnosis as a persuasion skill. Many people think it's questionable and say it's wrong. However, depending on who is using it and their goal, any type of hypnotism can be abused. When used correctly, covert hypnosis has been found to be helpful. We will highlight areas where covert hypnotism can be used for good in this discussion. Can you imagine being able to directly talk to another person's subconscious mind and give it suggestions while also influencing their behavior? This is the power that hypnosis can bestow upon someone. The use of hypnosis can give one person power over another, and if a person has ill intent, they can take advantage of this opportunity for personal gain. However, there are bounds to everything. Every person's unconscious mind is designed in such a way that it protects a person's survival. For example, telling your mind to stop breathing while you are unconscious will not work. The mind will refuse to allow you to do things that will harm you. How do people use covert hypnosis? All musculoskeletal movements, emotions, and memories are controlled by a person's subconscious mind. The hypnotist bypasses your normal faculties and goes to the center of your conscious mind to make suggestions to your subconscious mind. It is frightening to consider how a person can take advantage of another in such a state. There are numerous ways to employ covert hypnosis, some of which are as follows. When a presenter is attempting to warm up his or her audience for them to agree with their message, when managers want their teams to do more and show more comment, when a salesperson tries to persuade someone to buy artists that try to persuade people to buy, when storytellers and writers use emotions to move their audiences, when politicians try to persuade you of their cause, how does covert hypnosis occur naturally? It is critical to understand that we all experience conversational hypnosis more frequently than we imagine. If you've ever found yourself so drawn into a conversation that you end up losing track of time or your environment, you've experienced hypnosis. Sometimes you find yourself extremely emotional about something or a conversation that didn't seem emotional in the first place. Or sometimes you meet someone and instantly fall in love with them even though you don't know them. All of these are examples of hypnotic phenomena. Covert hypnosis is defined as the use of naturally occurring language combined with nonverbal cues to achieve these effects. To be able to create these effects, person can attend a good hypnotic cause. The issue arises when a person employs these abilities to cause harm or gain an advantage over others. Hypnosis can be used for good or for well. Everything is dependent on the hypnotist's intent. Based on research, hypnosis has been very useful in dealing with various behavioral and mental illnesses. People with certain undesirable behaviors that you have tried to get rid of eventually with the use of hypnosis. It gets easier to change. However, if a hypnotist is unethical, they may decide to take advantage of the patient and force them to do things they would not normally do. They use their subconscious state to suggest certain things in their minds because they know they will do them. For this reason, it is critical to research the hypnotist to be used. It is preferable to get one recommended by a person you trust or who has excellent reviews. Chapter 5. Undetected Mind Control. Mind control has been referred to as manipulation, brainwashing, coercive persuasion, thought reform, mental control, and coercive control, among other things. Despite the numerous names used to explain what mind control is, it has a simple, universally acceptable definition. Mind control can be defined as a system of influences that majorly disrupt a person's core. Their preferences, belief, behaviors, values, relationships, and decision, though the term mind control conjures up images of a bad thing. It can be beneficial in some situations, such as assisting addicts in their recovery. Mind control, on the other hand, is used unethically in dark psychology. It is a personal or collective freedom or action that is jeopardized by agents or persons who distort or modify perception, cognition, motivation, behavioral outcomes, or effect. This is a type of manipulation used to deny people's freedom of choice and thought. The formation of cults and sects is the result of mind control. People lose their ability to think or reason for themselves and instead blindly follow everything their cult leader says. Mind control laments. A subtle mind control is required. This means that the person is unaware of how the influence is affecting him or her. The changes are made in small part over time, making the individual believe that they are responsible for the decisions you're making when the truth is that every decision is the unfortunate thing is that the individual is never aware of how harmful you are. And entrapped are and entrapped you are. Mind control is a procedure. It doesn't happen all of a sudden. It takes time, and the amount depends on the methods used, the manipulator's skills, how long a person has been exposed to the technique, and other social factors. Mind control, on the other hand, can happen in a matter of hours with a skilled manipulator. Mind control entails some form of coercion. The force does not have to be physical, but social and psychological pressure and force are used. Brainwashing and mind control. Previously, an intriguing distinction was made between mind control and brainwashing. It is believed in brainwashing that the victim is aware that the aggressor is an enemy. For example, in cases where there are war prisoners, the prisoners understand that their captors are their enemies, and they must change the way they think their aggressors use physical force to coerce them to do things they would not normally do. However, when a victim of brainwashing finds an escape, the effects of the brainwashing are almost immediately lost. On the other hand, mind control is nearly impenetrable. Most of the time, the person doing the manipulations is a trusted person to the victim. They do it in such a way that the victim is always willing to be duped. They share all their vital information and secrets, which end up being used against them as leverage in the manipulations. Mind control is more dangerous than brainwashing, which employs torture, drugs, physical coercion, or abuse. Mind control is more effective than brainwashing and is the best way to gain control over a person. The difference is that physical coercion will change behavior temporarily, whereas persuasive coercion, which is mind control, transforms a person's thought process, attitudes, beliefs that are unfortunately the victim of mind control mistakenly believes that the change is beneficial to them and happily becomes participant. This makes it difficult for them to be told that the person they trusted and thought was their friend was manipulating them in this way. Victims of mind control are unaware that it is happening. Even when the person manipulating them is removed from the picture, their thought patterns, beliefs, and attitudes have been shaped in such a way that they are difficult to change. This is because they are convinced that the decisions they make are of their own free will and are beneficial to them. Who makes use of mind control? You might be wondering who would use these techniques to destroy others for their gain, or manipulate others because they can and want to control others. Sociopaths, psychopaths, and narcissists are the answers. The only explanation for why they do it is a lack of consciousness. When people don't know these scholarly names, they call the manipulators abusive or controlling wife or husband, jealous boyfriend, strict boss, or verbally abusive woman. And when these people are closely examined, it is discovered that they suffer from a variety of personality disorders. How to recognize when someone is using mind control against you. As previously stated, mind control occurs when the subject's thoughts and actions are externally controlled. This can happen either through physical or psychological means, and in most cases, it entails breaking the victim to gain total control. Mind control is used all around us daily, mostly inadvertently. Politics, advertisements, and media bias are all aimed at influencing or persuading you to a certain way of thinking. The following are some of the ways that mind control can be used against you. 1. Isolation. If you notice that you are systematically isolating yourself from your family and friends, this is a sign of mind control. This is because the people closest to you will be able to tell you what they can see, and the manipulator does not need you to know that. Manipulator needs you isolated in order to be successful. They need you vulnerable and ease you to break you. 2. Mood swings. Do you notice your child whining if she or he doesn't get their way? Do you find yourself changing your behavior or keeping an argument to maintain peace? This is how your partner will begin to mentally control you. It is mind control when you find yourself changing your actions to please someone else, not because what you are doing is wrong, but because you want to make them happy. 3. Metacommunication. The manipulator gives very subtle hints and clues by the use of nonverbal cues in this technique. For example, if a wife asks her husband if he is okay, he may answer in the affirmative with a shrug or a sigh. This is an indication that he is not well, but his verbal response is positive. Some people use metacommunication to implant subliminal thoughts in another person. 4. Neuro-linguistic programming, NLP. NLP is a technique for implanting layers of thoughts in a person's unconscious mind through the use of language without their knowledge. This technique employs language to implant suggestions in the minds of people. 5. Uncompromising rules. Do you notice your partner imposing unreasonable rules on your way of life? If your partner forces you to meet impossible deadlines, restricts your meal times, and controls how you spend your money, this is mind control. How you spend your money, this is mind control. When a person employs mind control to persuade the subject, they take all the decisions away from their subject. They want their victims to follow a certain strict set of behavior that benefits them at the expense of the victim. This allows them to insert their suggestions or agenda into the victim's life and control it. Mind control preventing. Maintain close contact with your family and friends. Allow your partner's sulky or moody behavior to control you. Keep an eye out for nonverbal hints. A refuse to agree to unyielding rules. Unrecognized mind control tactics. People use various tactics every day to control others for their selfish gains. Difficult people who want to control others can be found everywhere. Mind control is important in the workplace, intimate relationships, and friendships. It is critical to be aware of these control tactics so that you can avoid them. Below, we will discuss a few controlling tactics that manipulators frequently employ to disadvantage others and gain an upper hand over them. However, it is important to understand that not everyone who employs these tactics wishes to control you. Some people simply don't know how to behave. And if they are likely to stop. Some of these control tactics are: 1. Time dominance and home court advantage. A controlling and aggressive person may insist on meeting and conversing with you at a location that is advantageous to them. He wants to be in a space where he can exercise her dominance and control to get what he wants. Aside from location, a controlling person will want to control how long a meeting takes to their advantage. They may wish to make it very long to tire you out or very short to cut you off abruptly before you can express your opinion. 2. Making you wait. If you had an appointment with a person at a particular time, you get there on time. But the person deliberately makes you wait. He or she is simply exercising this is a classic form of power play, and the message is that their time is more important than yours, and that he or she is also more important than you. They want you to believe that you need them, and that they don't need you, so you must be the only patient with them. 3. furniture set, or to insinuate differences in rower. This mostly occurs in office setups, where a person has set up their office in such a way that they can exercise power. They make their seat large and adjustable, indicating executive, while you are given a small chair. When seated, you appear to be over you and you appear to be below them. He or she also dominates the table space, ensuring that her things have completely occupied the desk and you have no space to rouse even a laptop. In some cases, the table is used as a sign of emotional, physical barrier, or to create a psychological distance. 4. Deliberately calling your name. Someone can call your name strategically or arbitrarily as a form of power play. When a person calls out another person's name, they have their attention. The listener feels like they've been put on the spot and are being forced to respond with more attentiveness. Because of this, the listener ensures that questions are answered with care and detail. 5. Intimidation through number strength. An aggressor may want to intimidate another with a show of might and numbers. They take dominance of a situation by having their associates and friends present to reinforce their position. When the other party sees those numbers, they may become intimidated. Furthermore, his associates or friends can back each other up and occasionally challenge you during the process. Some institutions will put undue pressure on you to decide before you are ready. At its worst, strength through numbers can be used to harass or bully an opponent either directly or indirectly. 6. Uncomfortable formality. An aggressor may want to make their opponent uncomfortable and make them feel defensive. They accomplish this by making their speech, physical environment, clothing, and/or the proceedings uncomfortable and formal. This feeling may be accurate if the formalities or demonstrations are not concordant with their usual behavior. When the aggressor is excessively formal and extra, he or she may be trying to be impressive and psychologically intimidating to have an upper hand and get with that. 7. They maintain an uncomfortable physical closeness to you. An aggressor may want to sit or stand uncomfortably close to you, especially if they are taller, to intimidate you with their when people stand tall over you and are uncomfortably close. The height naturally intimidates you. In doing so, the person hopes to gain a sense of superiority and psychologically dominate you to their advantage and at your expense. 8. They use procedure and red tape as a form of intimidation. Some people will use procedures, bureaucracy, bylaws and laws, paperwork, and other means to make it difficult for you. This technique is also used by those who want to delay those who are seeking facts or truth, to hide flaws and weaknesses, or to avoid scrutiny. 9. Exhibiting negative emotion and unerased voice. When holding a normal debate, some aggressors will raise their voice to intimidate others. They believe that by raising your voice and displaying negative emotions, you will yield to their coercion and get what they want. They frequently combine aggressive voice with intimidating body language, such as excited gestures or sudden standing. 10. Threaten a walkout and lack of patience. Other power play tactics that aggressors use to pressurize their listeners to conform, like raising a voice, are showing a lack of patience and threatening to walk out of a proceed if the recipient is emotionally invested in the situation or the aggressor. It becomes easier for this type of coercion to work on them. 11. Negative humor. An aggressor understands that using negative humor that focuses on your area of weakness will disempower you. He or she makes critical remarks disguised as humor to make the victim feel insecure and inferior. They can make negative comments about your appearance, your possessions, such as your phone, or even your credentials and background. An aggressor hopes to psychologically impose their perceived superiority over you by making a person feel and look bad. 12. Constant critiquing and judging. An aggressor will make certain to criticize and judge your every move or decision, making you feel inadequate. In this case, the aggressor will specifically target you. He or she will mock, marginalize, and dismiss you to keep you off balance and have superiority over you. The aggressor wants you to believe there is something wrong with you at all times, and he wants the people around you to believe the same. Regardless of how hard you try, he or she is good at making you feel like nothing good can come out of you. They always focus on your negative traits, but rarely do they offer constructive or helpful solutions. 13. Encouraging you to make a decision. This tactic is most commonly used by salespeople. When a person wants you to buy something, they refuse to give you time to weigh your options and think about it. Instead, they want you to make a decision right away. They use tension and bully you into making a critical decision without thinking it through. Even during negotiations, one party will put pressure on you to make a decision when you are not prepared. They put undue pressure on you in the hope that you will give in to their demands and they will get their way without caring how you feel about the situation. 14. Providing you with excessive and multiple directions. This is geared towards psychological and behavioral control. This is a common tactic used by law enforcers to control one's behavior. Individuals who like to be in control of their businesses frequently employ this tactic. This tactic is also used by extremely controlling people in domestic, intimate relationships and other situations. Some people use this tactic for no reason other than to bully and abuse their victims. They observe the vulnerability of their victims and exploit it. 15. Threat-aggressors may use threats to intimidate their victims about the consequences if they do not comply. The resultates can be emotional, legal, financial, psychological, physical, or social, among others. Difficult people who want to control others can be found everywhere. Knowing the tactics, the UA, is important for an individual so that you can use available strategies to restore respect and balance. Why don't we accept that it's happening? Mind control is a difficult concept to grasp. Those who use it are usually trustworthy, close people. They employ subtle means in which the victim frequently believes they are responsible for their own decisions. The majority of mind control tactics are not physically aggressive. Aggressors are also picky about who they choose as victims. Most of their victims are usually weak, vulnerable, and, in some cases, emotionally abused. Individuals who believe they need someone who loves them, believes in them, and understands them are easy to manipulate in this way. According to studies, the majority of mind control victims, individuals who have recently gone through a divorce, are undergoing a personal tragedy. Their careers have failed or are away from their loved ones and are lonely. Many people who have been mentally controlled, particularly those in cults, will never admit it. They believe they made sound decisions and that their leader is being targeted. Mind control can be so strong that individuals choose their leader over their loved ones. As discussed below, these leaders use various tools to make their subjects loyal to them. Mind control tools. 1. Controlled environment. A manipulator or aggressor will ensure that the victim is completely disconnected from their loved ones. They forbid all forms of communication and brainwash them into believing that their family and friends are the enemies. 2. Break your self-sense. You attack their victim's self-esteem on the basis that they're wrong and their views are wrong as compared to the 3. They instill a new sense of self. The victim is given a new sense of identity, that of identifying with the group. This is reinforced by the group environment in which the victim only interacts with group members and receives all information from them. They teach the victim how to behave and live following their beliefs. 4. Isolation. A victim is isolated from the outside world. They are barred from using the internet or reading the news. Fear is instilled in them to the point where they are afraid to leave the safe group environment. What to look for in a harmful leader. 1. Totalitarian. This leader leads through authoritarianism. Everything is under his authority, but he makes no accountability for his actions. 2. Has no tolerance. This type of leader does not tolerate and questions. A person who asks questions, in his opinion, is challenging his authority and being critical. This is inexcusable to him. 3. Instills irreasonable fear. He rules his subjects through fear of the outside world, such as imagined evil conspiracies, persecutions, or imagined catastrophes. 4. Criticism. This type of leader is constantly criticizing his subjects and making them feel that they aren't good enough and that only he or she can accept their weaknesses and flaws. 5. No need to leave. If any of his followers leave, he will never agree that you had a reason to. Instead, he will tell the others that left were evil, negative, and had. Most people who use mind control to take advantage of their victims do so under the guise of love. This makes it extremely difficult for the victims to detect it. They believe that the rest of the world despises them, but only this person adores them. The leader employs tactics to demonstrate to them that they are unworthy of love when they are vulnerable, and that only he or she is capable of loving them despite themselves. Mind control is also practiced over a long period. Because of its subtle nature, it is done in such a way that it transforms a person's thought pattern or process and beliefs, which in turn influence their behavior. It is difficult to change a person's thoughts unless they want to. Unfortunately, those who use mind control do so in such a way that the victim believes they made the decisions themselves and that they are good for them. This is why it is so difficult to detect. It is mental, takes time, and has no visible symptoms. How media makes use of mind control. Many people, when asked to describe a mind control scene, will recall what they saw in a movie. A person isolated, tortured, and compelled to say something that is not always the case. Mind control herons to you all through very subtle ways that are undetestable. The media employs a variety of mind control techniques on its audience to get them to do what they want. Some argue that mass media is a way for the elite to control the masses without using physical force. The elite, however, need our consent, and we all will give it freely. The media accomplishes this by making people feel bad about themselves, by dispersing us. People can be put down using mass media. They disseminate fake news to influence people. They make people numb to violence. So, how do they gain control of our minds? There are numerous ways that the media control our mind. Some examples are: 1. Crime on television shows. Numerous TV shows depict extreme violence, and it is justified by being referred to as a storyline. According to studies, early exposure to violence on TV can lead to a person forming aggressive behavior later in life. 2. Advertise. Look everywhere. On billboards, in magazines, or on TV advertisements, you see images of people that are picture-perfect selling something. They raise the stakes to extremely high beauty standards, causing many people to try and measure up. This kind of standard has resulted in people having eating disorders, have self-loathe, and people generally resulted in harmful values to achieve the set. 3. Real 2 reveals itself. When asked what they want to be when they grow up, most children say they want to be famous. Reality TV shows have made many people believe that this is the ideal way of life, that they can simply start a TV show, become famous, and earn money. Children no longer have solid role models and instead think in a shallow way. 4. Politics. Politicians use the media to persuade voters and gain an advantage over their opponents. They are notorious for disseminating fake news that some people believe to be true. Fake news has recently taken over mainstream media. It's nearly impossible to tell what's real and what's not. They use the media to persuade people of the truth. 5th, sports, politics, and religion. Constant reports of religious wars and divides, political differences, and competitiveness in sports are available through the media. Instead of reporting on the positive side, we frequently see news on the negative side. For example, If two soccer teams are pitted against each other, it is staged to appear as if they are enemies. At the end of the day, people take sides and emotions are attached. This is what gives rise to hooliganism in sports. Hatred has been seen in religious circles alone. Naturally, human beings enjoy being together. When reports are made of Christians fighting with Jews or Muslims, it fuels tension among the people and serrates them even more. It is undeniable that mind control occurs in far more areas than we previously realized. Many people who use mind control tactics are unaware that they are causing harm and have no ill motives. However, a few people use mind control intending to harm others. These are the dangerous ones. Psychopaths and narcissists employ a variety of tactics to gain an advantage over their victims. This is a type of dark psychology in which a person wishes to dominate, control, and take advantage of another person without regard for the person's feelings. Chapter 6. Brainwashing to stop being manipulated. Brainwashing can be defined as the attempt to change the thoughts and beliefs of others against their will or without their consent. It is a systematic effort to coerce and alter an individual's attitudes and beliefs to change their behavior. Political indoctrination programs have been known to employ brainwashing tactics to persuade people to change their political beliefs. Brainwashing is also used to manipulate followers in certain religious practices, particularly in cultic ones. Primarily, brainwashing works by rendering the victim's beliefs and attitudes obsolete and replacing them with ones that the captor holds and that are appropriate for the environment. Brainwashing entails the total removal of a person's freedom, independence, and decision-making power. It is the repeated disruption of one's routine, habits, and behavior. It entails complete isolation and destruction from friends, loyalties, associates, and calls for absolute obedience to the captor's authority in every way. Brainwashing involves physical abuse, threats of injury, death, or life imprisonment in many cases. The captive always presented new beliefs as the best and acceptable way to an enlightened life. The techniques used in brainwashing are intended to instill a childlike trust in the victim and dependency on their captor. The captive is encouraged to confess to perceived past crimes where the victim admits to absurd and trivial mistakes and, in some cases, implicating others fairly to impress if there are other captors that have been brainwashed before you. They are likely to be used to reinforce the process by criticizing the victim and showing support to the captors. Once the brainwashing process has taken hold, the captor begins getting rewards and approvals for their deeds. How dark psychology can include brainwashing. When a person uses brainwashing tactics to manipulate or influence another person against their will, that is dark psychology. Every person has been given the ability of free will. You should be able to make your own decisions, have the freedom of association, and choose to whom to be loyal. When freedom is taken away from you forcibly, that becomes part of dark psychology. People who are in abusive relationships can also be brainwashed. A husband forbids his wife from communicating with her friends, claiming that they have a negative influence. The wife is mature enough to know what is good or bad for her, and she should make that decision independently. There are cases where a spouse would force the partner to stop wearing certain types of clothes, claiming they are not pleasing among other things. This is a method of removing freedom from your partner so that you can control them. Living with an abusive partner can be very perplexing and draining. They blame and manipulate you for things that are not your fault or that you never did. To keep your abuser happy, you isolate yourself from your family and friends, change your dress, change your political beliefs, and the world becomes about you versus them. An abusive relationship, the abused partner becomes dependent on the other and cannot make simple decisions even on what to cook for dinner. They must consult with everything, and they exist solely to make their partner happy at the expense of their own happiness. In this case, the abuser defines what love is and how it should be expressed. The abuser defines everything in the victim's life, including what is wrong with them, what they should improve, how they should behave, and what is appropriate. A person can fall into the hands of an abuser in various ways, but the most common ways are emotional, psychological, and physical abuse. Once an abuser has hooked their partner, they begin to put them down with belittling remarks and insults. To keep the brainwashing and abuse going, they have periods where they stop the abuse and begin showing kindness towards their victim. The victim is bound by trauma. He or she constantly wishes to make their abuser happy, hoping to be treated with warmth and kindness. Because the victim is imprisoned in their own lives, brainwashing becomes part of dark psychology. The controlling partner in a relationship may withhold resources such as a car, money, or even food. They make the victim a prisoner in their own home, cause the victim to live in fear and change how they view the world. The life of a brainwashed victim is overwhelmed with their abuser. Even in the absence of physical abuse, the victim does not feel free to leave their lives, but rather lives in the shadow of their abuser. They are psychologically affected, develop anxiety disorders, and suffer from depression. The brainwashing process is a systematic one. It is a process aimed at losing self-identity and weakening one's beliefs, attitudes, values, and transform thought process. Manipulators use the following steps or stages to brainwash their victims. Use the following steps or stages to brainwash their victims. Guilt. A manipulator in a relationship will constantly pick arguments to cast the victim as the wrongdoer, causing them to feel guilty for the arguments. This behavior persists to the point where the victim begins to feel shame for almost everything and believes they deserve to be punished. This is the first stage of breaking a person to begin brainwashing them. Self-betrayal. When a person is forced to denounce family and friends, it destroys their sense of self and enhances their guilt feelings. These feelings separate them from their past, paving the way for the creation of a new personality. Tent of Fasten. When a victim is repeatedly assaulted, made to feel guilty, and has feelings of betrayal, they'll break down. They might find themselves crying inconsolably, falling into depression, and experiencing anxiety attacks. Psychologically, they feel that you have lost a sense of themselves and live in fear of annihilation. Leniency. When a victim is feeling as if they are being annihilated, the oppressor shows them kindness. This is the brief rest from the assault on who they are. During these brief months of seeing light, where was darkness? They feel dearly grateful to their abusers. This is a calculated move from their abusers before the assault again. Obligation to confess. At the point where they are grateful to their abuser for pulling them from their point of breakdown, they are faced with the chance of further assault against the rescue. And they sometimes believe they owe the abuser and are obligated to repay the kindness shown to them. The abuser may give them the chance to absolve themselves of their guilt, but encouraging them to confer to perceived mistakes. Guilt channeling. The victim's feelings of guilt and shame will be muddled by the increased assault to their identity. This causes the person to get confused and lose the sense of what they are guilty of and simply believe they are wrong and carry that burden. Because of the guilt, the abuser uses it to redirect it towards anything they want. This is typically accomplished by showing the victim that they have lived a life of bad decisions and ideologies and that they need to open up to new ideas. Dishonoring logic. The victim believes that ideologies that have been imposed externally are the source of their guilt. Instead of seeing the manipulation, they blame their teachers and the ideology. The relief of their guilt by making more confessions about everything they do during the wrong ideology. They mentally throw away these wrong acts and, in the process, they are completing the act of rejecting the perceived wrong ideology. Harmony and progress. The rejection of the old ideology creates a vacuum into which the new ideology can be introduced. As they become enemies of the old ideology, the person is now looking for a new ideology to replace it. The process is sped up as the new ideology is shown to be in harmony with them and suitable for their needs. At this point, there is a calmness that replaces the pain and punishment of the past. The captors all of a sudden are wonderful and kind, and the new ideology is embraced as a replacement of the old ideology's sins. Final conference and rebirth. Faced with the distinct contrast of past pain and the glow of the future presented by the new ideology, the victim sheds any remaining allegiance to the old ideology by confessing any at this point. They had complete control of the new ideology. This is referred to as a rebirth. Depending on the ideology, it may be accompanied by a rite of passage to be cemented completely in the new order. It now includes strong statements. The victim is told to confess to acceptance of the new ideology and swearing allegiance to the new leaders. The importance of brainwashing. Brainwashing, as earlier explained, is a method of systematically transforming a person's thought patterns, beliefs, and attitudes to control their behavior. This is usually done for the benefit of the manipulator and can have several negative consequences. Brainwashing can impact a person in a variety of ways. These are the WAS. That brainwashing harms the victim's self-esteem. The victim believes they are not good enough and that nothing they do is good. This can lead to suicidal thoughts or get them depressed. Anxiety disorders. A person being brainwashed loses a sense of self and gets isolated from their loved ones. They are forced to change who they are and choose a new identity. The victim is constantly worried about doing the wrong thing and may suffer from anxiety disorders that affect their outward behavior. Depression. Most brainwashing victims are isolated from their loved ones in the world. Their world revolves around pleasing their captors and receiving kindness from them. They have no one else to talk to, and their feelings are unresolved. This may cause them to be depressed and associate well with others. Lack of self-confidence. Constant abuse and criticism by the captor cause the victim to believe they are worthless. They are afraid to make decisions because they have been made to feel unworthy. Living in fear. One of the tactics brainwashers employs is instilling fear in their victims. They warn them of impending doom and how unfriendly the world is. They live with the fear that every person is dangerous and that if they venture out, they will be in danger. The captor also threatens their victim with dire consequences. The victim lives in constant fear of what might happen if he or she does not do as the captor instructs. Change of beliefs. The captor's intent is to transform their victim's beliefs to control their behavior. It doesn't matter if their belief was ethical, but as long as it does not agree with the captor's ideologies or beliefs, they are not good enough. The effects of brainwashing on the victim vary depending on the intent of the captor or aggressor. It is critical to identify the technique and tricks that an aggressor will employ to avoid becoming a victim of brainwashing. Typical brainwashing dark psychology techniques. Brainwashing occurs when an individual or a group uses underhand tactics to influence and persuade others to oppose their will. In persuasion, it is possible for honest persuasion to begin an unethical one, which can be termed brainwashing. People are subjected to persuasions daily. However, dark psychology tactics begin when an individual is forced to change their belief without their consent. Different people use various tactics in an effort to brainwash their victims. These are some examples. Etchy isolation is usually the first tactic in brainwashing. The perpetrator ensures that the victim is completely isolated from their family and friends. The manipulator does this so that the victim has no one else to talk to and to keep the victim from becoming aware of the aggressor's manipulation tactics. They do not want their authority over their victim to be questioned by a third party, nor do they want the victim to get information from other parties than themselves. That attack on self-esteem. Once the victim is isolated, the manipulator can break them down and the manipulator can build them up as he wants. To brainwash someone, the victim must be made to feel inferior to the manipulator. The manipulator then begins to attack the victim through ridicule, intimidation, and mocking. This shatters the victim's self-esteem, and they completely believe they are at the mercy of the manipulator. Mental harm. A manipulator will also use mental harm to brainwash their victims. They accomplish this by lying to the victim and then using the truth in the presence of others to embarrass them. They could also continuously badger their victims and deny them any personal space, making them feel imprisoned. Physical abuse. Manipulators have a variety of physical techniques at their disposal to brainwash their victims. These may include depriving their victims of sleep, inflicting bodily harm through violence, denying them food, and keeping them cold. Manipulator can also brainwash their victims in subtle ways. Some of these ways should be keeping noise levels having flickering lights, all the temperatures in the room, and deliberately changing the temperatures. Repetitive music. Studies have shown that playing a repetitive beat can induce a hypnotic state in a person. A manipulator who understands this tactic can use it against their victim. The rhythm of the music can alter a victim's consciousness until the manipulator can easily speak suggestions into your subconscious. As a result, your brain automatically responds to the new suggestions and you begin to change your behavior. Eye contact is only allowed with other brainwashed individuals. The manipulator only allows their victim to get into contact with their other victims. This is because he or she wants the peer pressure from the other victims to persuade the victim to accept the new way of thinking. Because of the isolation, the victim seeks to adhere to the suggestions of others that they get accepted and they stop feeling lonely. That's USVs them. When the manipulator indicates there is a US and them, he asks as if he is giving the victim a choice between the manipulator and the received enemy. They do this to obtain complete obedience from the victim. They have shown the victim the negative side of the others and expect the victim to choose them over the others. A love bombing. The manipulator draws the victim into themselves or the group by displaying physical affection through touching, trading intimate thoughts, bonding emotionally, and showing kindness. This is meant to validate the victim and show them they made the right choice by completely erasing anew affection. The might-be feeling for others outside the group. Brainwashing is difficult to use for good. Most manipulators employ brainwashing tactics to gain complete and absolute control of their victims. The victim is always harmed by brainwashing. They lose their self and live to please their captor. Simple things we take for granted, such as the ability to choose what to wear and when to wear it, are taken away from us. They are not allowed to make any decisions and are meant to feel unworthy and lucky, to be in the good graces of the manipulator. The first step in avoiding being brainwashed is to understand the tactics manipulators employ and their traits. This allows you to identify them before they are used on you or a loved one and call them out. Brainwashing is a common tactic in dark psychology, where a manipulator uses these tactics to gain control over other people for their gain, disregarding their victims' feelings or well-being. Chapter 7. Influence human behavior. Understanding human behavior. As it stands, human beings are complex, making it difficult to comprehend their behavior. Some of the influences are genetics, culture, the environment, and one's upbringing. Human beings are actively progressing and interacting with an ever-changing world. We strive to navigate the world, learn, and adapt particular survival behaviors. However, understanding human beings can be difficult, but science has provided us with a few tools to help us understand human behavior. Below, we will go over 3 scientific examples that will help us understand human behavior. 1. Why is it so easy to credit ourselves with success while blaming others for failures? The simple explanation is that we do this to make sense of the world. Every event must have a cause and a meaning behind it. This is what helps us understand what is going on and what contributes or attributes to our behavior. It's known as the attribution theory in science. There are two types of attribution: eternal attribution, where we assign the causes of anything to ourselves or our internal factors, and external attribution. We assign causes to external factors or other people. When we succeed, we use internal attributions be so. We believe we are responsible for our succeed. When we fail, however, we automatically use external attribution by blaming others for any mistakes we make, but only because they were caused by factors beyond our control. The question is why we do this. One of the most common reasons is that human beings want to be seen in a positive light. We don't want to admit our mistakes or failures. Another theory holds that human beings want to protect themselves through the use of attributes. When we blame others, we protect ourselves from recrimination or punishment. 2. Why do we believe what we see or hear automatically? Human beings have free will and are the most intelligent creatures on the planet. This should imply that before deciding on any situation, we should weigh all of the pros and cons and question everything. Unfortunately, that is not how we operate. As human beings, we automatically believe what is placed in front of us. A study revealed that the reason we fall for fake news is that we are lazy. Human beings are susceptible to fake news because they are too lazy to find out the truth. Another research had suggested that the problem was that humans were tread. Others believe that humans are put in situations where they must make quick decisions. This causes our instincts to kick in, and we rely on previous experiences. Because of the need to react fast, it explained where it is easier to believe what we see. It is critical to understand that certain circumstances can influence human behavior. For example, if a person is distracted or tired, their judgment can be impaired. 3. Why do we compare ourselves to people we believe are similar to us? Most of us compare ourselves to our friends, family members, colleagues, or partners. The thing that all these individuals have in common is their likelihood of being similar to us. The social comparison theory is the name given to this theory. We understand and learn about who we are and our abilities by comparing ourselves to the people around us. Every human being has an innate need to reevaluate his or her life. But why only compare ourselves to people who are similar to us? We don't want to believe that others are better than us, but we secretly feel inadequate. These are some of the theories that help us understand why humans behave the way they do. The society in which we live, our environment, as well as our genes, as well as our nature, are what can be used to explain where we behave as such, how to be more persuasive. Most successful people in the world are very good at persuasion or selling themselves, their ideas and theories. Being able to sell yourself is one of the most important skills of a successful person. However, this does not imply that a person must pressurize and manipulate others to succeed. Persuasion should be used ethically, even if some people use it unethically for personal gain at the expense of others. Persuasion has been described as the ability to describe the benefits and logic of an idea in order to come to agreement. This means that if we want to persuade others on a project, buy an item, help employees understand the changes in an organization and how the U will benefit them, etc., we must all be more convincing. This is what makes persuasion serious in business and career, as well as in our day-to-day lives. So, you want to be more convincing and improve your skills? Here, we'll go over a few pointers that will help you be more successful in your persuasion techniques. 1. Take firm stands. Normally, we believe that having substantial data and reasoning will help us win the day. Unfortunately, this isn't always the case. According to research, human beings prefer being cocky to expertise. Human beings believe that having confidence is the same as having skills. Even when a person is normally skeptical, they are easily persuaded when they come into contact with a confident person. It is a fact that we prefer when a confident person or source offers advice to the point where we forgive the person's track record. When giving a speech, don't add qualifiers. Instead, be confident in what you're saying. Avoid phrasing such as I think or I believe. If you believe something, say it without trying to justify it. Using qualifying words causes people to lose trust in what you're telling them because you don't seem to believe in yourself. 2. Begin slowly by focusing on small accomplishments. Avoid diving headfirst into your sales argument. Begin with promises that your audience will identify and agree with, laying the groundwork for a future agreement. When you begin having small wins with your audience, you are more likely to have larger wins with them as well. 3. Understand your audience and adjust your speech rate to their perspective. Talking fast might work in some situations, but not in others. Consider the following suggestions. Shriek faster if you know your audience is likely to disagree. Shriek slower if you feel your audience is open to agree. When you notice that your audience does not agree with you, speaking faster gives them no time to form counter-arguments, making it easier to persuade them. When your audience is likely to agree with you, speaking slowly allows them to understand you, evaluate your arguments, and factor in their opinions. Your audience will be more likely to persuade themselves with your reasoning and bias. 4. It is acceptable to be slightly unprofessional. This does not imply that you use curse words carelessly. You might be agitated at times and want to pass a point across and toss in a heartfelt curse word. This might help instill a sense of urgency into the situation. It is acceptable to allow some anger to take the lead. It demonstrates that you are genuine, authentic, and a normal human, making it easier to persuade. 5. Take your time to understand your audience and how to process information. Some people want time to process information. Avoid pressing for instant agreement, especially if the personality of your audience takes calculated moves. However, if your audience is quick to make decisions, don't ask them to think about it and reflect on it. It is critical to understand how your audience will react and deliver your argument to get the best result. 6. Be open and give the positives and the negatives of a situation. Research shows that sharing various opposing views is more persuasive than just sharing your argument. The reason for this is that it is difficult to come up with a perfect idea when your audience is aware of it. They know, even if you don't tell them, that there are other perspectives and outcomes to the situation. To effectively persuade them, talk about each aspect because they are already considering it anyway. Discuss potential negatives and how to overcome them. When your audience hears and sees this, they are more likely to be persuaded because you understand their concerns and are truthful. 7. Draw positive conclusions. Naturally, a person will be more tempted to give scary statistics or use scare tactics to persuade. However, research has shown that taking a more positive approach yields better results. Focus on the positive if you want to bring about change. Don't tell your audience what to avoid. Instead, lead them to a better place by drawing positive conclusions. 8. Select the proper format. This refers to the mode of communication. The right way of communication is important, depending on what you want to communicate and who you want to communicate with. For example, if you are a man attempting to persuade another man, writing an email first might be a better way to start your conversation. On the other hand, if you are looking at persuading a woman, you will need a different approach. Women are relationship-focused, so approaching them in person may be the best way to persuade them. The type of relationship a person has with another depends on face-to-face communication. Understand your audience before initiating a conversation and establishing the best approach to it. 9. Ensure that you are correct. People who are successful in persuasion know how to deliver and frame their message. They also understand that the message must be accurate because the message's content is what matters. When delivering a message, be precise, clear, and to the point. Get a win because your reasoning, data, and conclusion are beyond doubt. Influence others by making them feel at ease. To successfully influence others, you must first make them feel at ease. You must create an environment in which your message will be received properly and your audience will be able to communicate with you. There are small tires that will help you make a connection and make your audience feel at ease. These include smiling. A smile shows friendliness and that you are approachable. It also makes people feel more at ease around you, and they will want to pay attention to what you tell them. Use a smile to ease a new tension and ensure you have an interaction that is receptive to you. Show confidence. Giving your audience a confident vibe makes them trust you and feel at ease around you. Even if you're nervous, try to mask it. People prefer to be around a confident person. Be self-assured if you want your audience to be at ease with what you tell them. Give compliments. Learn to give compliments during your conversation. It becomes a great icebreaker when you smile and compliment others genuinely. This technique helps make the audience comfortable and honest to your message. Slow down when speaking. If you get on a roll and start talking faster and faster, you now need to slow down. Speaking fast and giving quick instructions can make your audience uneasy and overwhelm them. Slow down and communicate in a way that everyone feels comfortable with. Allow your body language to be open. A person with a good body language will make eye contact, turns to look at the person they were talking to, and are generally relaxed. This makes your audience more comfortable, as opposed to a person with a closed-up body language. A person with a closed body language will avoid looking at the person they are speaking to or making direct eye contact. This can indicate that they are not being truthful or confident in the information they are passing along. To display your attentiveness, you must demonstrate that you are listening. It feels very bad to chat with a person who is constantly glancing at their phone. Make the people you're speaking to feel important by smiling occasionally and maintaining eye contact. This is a sure way to make your audience feel at ease. Use mirroring technique. This is a sneaky but subconscious wow to make reader relax and feel at ease. This is accomplished by observing and mimicking their posture. For example, if the people you're talking to stand, you should stand as well, or if they're leaning on their seats, you should mimic them. This can make them feel comfortable without them realizing it. Be nice. Always remember to be nice to the people you're talking with. Be grateful and kind to your audience, and they will automatically feel at ease. Allow your honesty to shine. To make people feel more at ease, let them see that you are honest. If your audience suspects you're hiding something or aren't telling the truth, they won't feel safe around you. Telling the truth gives you a great opportunity to build a meaningful relationship with your audience. Try to be hilarious. Everyone has a sense of humor. Try a few jokes and say a few jokes to ease on your tension. Saying a joke makes people believe you are a happy person, and it attracts people towards you. Making people feel at ease is the first step toward commanding their attention. If a person feels at ease around you, they are more likely to listen to you and be persuaded. A successful person understands the importance of this and ensures that his or her audience is comfortable. Be a good conversationalist. Conversation skills are essential in today's world. Whether you're communicating in business, in a relationship, or with friends, being a good conversationalist is essential. People will be drawn to you if you are a great conversationalist, and they will want to tell you about themselves. Things they don't tell others are easy for them to tell you because they have rapport and trust in you. There are a few rules that can guide you to be a great conversationalist. They are as follows. Have a genuine interest in a person. Be willing to know the person you are talking to. What is on their mind, their name, what they enjoy doing, what motivates them, and so on. When you meet a person and ask questions along that line, they will notice that you have a genuine interest in them and will open up to you and want to talk with you. Always have a genuine interest in your audience so that you can persuade them. Turn your attention to the positive. Instead of talking about past grievances or negative things, talk about future aspirations or things you are looking forward to. You can talk about topics that trigger negative emotions once in a while, but don't make it a habit. People respond more positively to positive topics. So make sure you focus on those. Adopt a forward thinking mentality by complaining less and providing more solutions. Make your audience like you by judging less and empathizing more. Discuss, don't argue. A conversation is about airing opinions, not pitting one against the other. Discuss and trash out ideas amicably, but not to prove a point to your audience. Allow things to be left open where a common point cannot be achieved. It is not necessary to reach a conclusion or reach an agreement at the end of every discussion. Allow others to have differing opinions from yours. Respect your audience. Respect the other person's. Persons P do not impose, judge, or criticize their views or impose your own on them. Learn to respect people's choices and to always remember that everyone has the right to their way of thinking. Bring out the best in your audience. A great conversationalist looks for ways to make the other person look good. Give credit when it is due and recognize and practice talent wherever you see it. Allow another person or your audience to shine in their light. Help them recognize their abilities and they will love you for it. Accept differences even as you build on commonalities. We are all different, and yet certain differences make us unique, and similarities bind us together. As you converse or speak with another person, identify the common ground and concentrate on it. Accept to disagree in some cases, but learn more about them based on what you have in common. Be true and honest to yourself. Embrace your true self and allow it to shine because it is your best asset. Share your genuine thoughts or opinions not to compete with others, but to express yourself. Have pride in your stance and appreciate it in others. 50-50 split. A great conversation should have equal sharing by all parties. Although the share may differ depending on the circumstances, both parties must be given an equal opportunity to contribute and share. This includes being sensitive to including the other party in the conversation by asking questions and sharing more about yourself. Allow your questions to be purposeful. The rest to a question is an answer. The questions a person asks are responsible for the outcome of the conversation. To have a meaningful conversation with the other person, ask meaningful questions. Ask the questions that would like to be asked. Give and take. During conversations, some people say something that be offensive to make bad jokes or make a distasteful remark. Do not pass judgment on them. Instead, give them the benefit of the doubt and disregard the comments. A person must strive to be the best conversationalist they can be for communication to be effective and efficient. Take the initiative to communicate better and improve your relationships or responses. Read their language. If you want to be able to influence other people's behavior and possibly understand them better, being able to correctly understand their body language will be an advantage. Reading the body language is likely to reveal more than just the verbal cues. There are several ways to read body language to better understand the people with whom you interact. Below, we will go over a variety of common body language cues that you should be aware of. The behavior of the USI Veru revealable. Pay attention to their eyes when communicating with another person. The person interested in the conversation, or the truthful one, will maintain eye contact, and the opposite is true. If a person looks down or away during a conversation, it could indicate submissiveness or nervousness. The eyes can give away so much about the person you are communicating with, and it is important to be observant to not miss important clues. Observe the facial expressions, mouth, or body language. A person may try to control their facial expression, but with keenness, you can still pick some important nonverbal cues. Pay attention to the mouth and notice if the person is smiling, sneezing, or indifferent. Keep an eye out for genuine or fake smiles. A genuine smile involves both the mouth and the eyes, or the entire face, whereas a fake smile only involves the mouth. Pay attention to closeness. Remember the deal between you and our audience. The way someone sits or stands next to you determines whether they favorably view you or not. If a person moves away when you move closer to them, it means they don't trust you or aren't at ease around you. The distance or proximity between people can reveal the type of relationship they have. Notice if the other person is mirroring you. Mirroring another person means mimicking their body language. When interacting with a person, observe if they imitate your gestures. If a person imitates your gestures, it's a good sign that they're paying attention and trying to build a rapport with you. Take note of how their head moves. The speed of nodding indicates the patience level of the person towards you. If the person nods quickly, it may mean they want you to finish talking the go. But if they nod slowly, it may mean that you are interested in what you are saying and need you to continue. Observe the feet. The feet alone give important cues. Most people rely on their feet for cues because they are usually preoccupied with controlling their facial expressions. The feet can give very important cues that a person is trying to hide. It is therefore critical to keep track of the feet's movement. You notice hand signals. Hand signals, like feet, can give important cues. Consider the person who keeps their hands inside their pocket all the time. This could indicate deception or nervousness. Be on the lookout for hand gestures to enhance the other person's understanding. Watch the position of the hand. It is said that a person's arms are the doorway to their body or themselves. If a person crosses their arms at the front while having a conversation, it may mean defensiveness. Crossed hands can also represent vulnerability, anxiety, or a closed mind. It could also indicate that the person does not trust you. However, if the crossed arms are accompanied by a genuine smile, it may simply be a relaxed posture. Nonverbal cues are verge. A person's body language can reveal a lot about them. If you want to be able to influence a person's behavior through conversation, then seek to understand their body language as well. Develop motival awareness. Regardless of where you are, emotional awareness or intelligence is an important skill to have. Individuals with emotional intelligence or awareness create the best relations, whereas statistics show that they positively affect the bottom line in the workplace. The following techniques will help you increase your emotional awareness or intelligence. Communicate assertively to earn respect without appearing passive or aggressive. When confronted with a conflict, respond to it rather than react to it. Avoid risks such as emotional outbursts or angry feelings, but stay calm regardless of how difficult the situation is. Listening actively aids in obtaining clarity. Before responding, make sure you understand what is being said. A person's emotional awareness calls for him or her to stay motivated. Even when confronted with difficulties, the emotionally aware person will set goals. An emotionally aware person seeks ways to maintain a positive attitude. A positive attitude affects those around you positively, whereas a negative attitude affects them negatively. An emotionally aware person practices self-awareness. You must be aware of how your emotions affect others and act accordingly. Individuals who are emotionally aware take criticism very well. Instead of being offended or defensive when you are criticized, learn from it. Individuals who are emotionally aware can empathize with others. They understand that empathy demonstrates emotional strength and opens the door to mutual respect. People who are emotionally aware are excellent leaders. They have high standards for themselves and set high standards for others. People who are emotionally aware are sociable and easy to approach. They smile and exude positive energy around them. How to be more likable. Most people want to be liked and to make others feel at ease around them. A likable person knows how to interact with others, respect them, and accept them for who they are. Not everyone is likable. If you want to be more likable, the following suggestions will help you. Develop an open and friendly demeanor. Don't be a liar or a liar's 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 liars. Liar's liar's liar. Avoid being perceived in a negative light or as a disinterested person. Similar people must learn to listen more and speak less. Instead of rushing to answer, listen more before you offer to respond. If you want to be liked, don't take over the spotlight. Taking the spotlight and wishing to be the center of attention without allowing others to shine will not make you likable. Stop using devices while conversing with other people. You want people to believe you care about them? If you want to be liked, make an effort to connect with those around you. Be more interested in them. Understand how to start conversations because it creates a sense of connection. Be open-minded and accepting of other people's points of view. Respect and agree that each person is unique. A likable person is dependable and balanced. You will not be likable if you are moody or gloomy. Establish shared interests with your audience if you want to be likable. To be likable, always be honest and say what you mean both verbally and non-verbally. To influence how people behave, you must first understand why they behave as they do, what influences them, and how to persuade and make you like them. Different things influence how people behave, and it is critical to understand the underlying factors. Conclusion. If you're reading this conclusion, it means you've already finished the book. Congratulations. This book has been written for you if you are ready to understand the unethical way we do things and behave. You've been wondering why people behave the way they do, or why you behave the way you do. You wonder why people can be manipulated and persuaded to do things they don't want to do. Perhaps you've been thinking that you're being influenced in a way that doesn't make you happy. You suspect that someone has been mentally controlling or brainwashing you, but you're not sure. You now know what to look for thanks to this book. The knowledge contained in this book will enable you to put an end to the negative manipulations that you have been subjected to. The book has also provided you with insights into how people use dark psychology tactics to get what they want from others. You do not need to be unethically influenced any longer. You can now break away. The book has also enabled you to know the different people that use unethical persuasion techniques so that you can avoid them. You can no longer be deceived. Knowing the tactics that people use to deceive you is critical in avoiding deception. Understanding how people use dark psychology and how to use others negatively will help you avoid such manipulations. If you are using dark psychology tactics on people, you now understand how harmful they can be and can change your ways. You have learned the best ways to positively influence the behavior of others without causing harm to them. Embrace good practices and avoid using dubious psychological tactics to get what you want.